Who can handle saving 6 rich heiresses at once? After a long life of being a simp, Li Yang was truly exhausted. He wandered under the streetlights, when suddenly, a mute girl hugged him. Then, with his eyes covered, he was taken into a car. When he felt the light again, Li Yang opened his eyes. In front of him stood a domineering CEO. "Take my daughter to school, 300,000 a month." Li Yang was silent, confused, and terrified, then he kneeled. Father-in-law. Chapter 1, Lost Trust. Tilde. Li Yang hunched over the sink, vomiting. If I were drinking with Shandong people, I'd be a dog, His mood had been terrible these past few days. His roommates, using the excuse of a team-building activity, dragged him to KTV to drown their sorrows. But they didn't even sing. They just drank to the background music. Among his roommates was a Shandong guy, nearly 2 meters tall, who was a master at persuading people to drink, firmly believing that getting drunk could solve all problems. Because of that, Li Yang had to pretend to take a phone call and sneak off to the far bathroom to throw up. The sound of high heels clicking on the tiles came from behind him, getting closer. It was probably another customer from the KTV, but he didn't pay much attention. Until that cold and familiar voice rang out. "Why are you here?" Li Yang instinctively looked up. His reflection in the mirror was a mess, in stark contrast to the stunning woman standing behind him. Chen Yu, the campus beauty from Modu University, the girl he had been pursuing for a whole year, and the reason for his bad mood today. A week ago, they were holding hands, shopping together. At that time, they already had an unspoken understanding, and all that was left to solidify their relationship was a well-prepared confession. But now the cold expression on her face was filled with nothing but disappointment. Their relationship had gone from progressing rapidly to falling to an ice-cold low. All because of one thing: the university's microfilm project. Every year, during the freshman intake, the school would organize some kind of event. And the 20-minute microfilm became the highlight of the activities, with significant resources put into promoting it. The director and lead actor of last year's microfilm were already signed by agencies and entered the entertainment industry. Li Yang didn't want to enter the entertainment industry, but Chen Yu did. So, Li Yang worked hard and compromised for her. His compromise was that he would take the supporting role behind the scenes and work tirelessly, carrying the whole project on his shoulders. He worked hard for Chen Yu, without any complaints, staying up late and even hanging for fluids for 3 days after the project was completed. The final product was a huge success, receiving rave reviews and becoming a breakout hit. And as expected, when the dust settled, the chief planner came to reap the rewards. Li Yang had no objections, and at that time, Chen Yu was still deeply touched, promising that when she succeeded, she would definitely be his exclusive leading lady. Their relationship moved forward rapidly. But unexpectedly, when it came to the script, Chen Yu stopped trusting him. Originally, he and the chief planner Lin Qingxuan had agreed that he would be the director, and they would even co-create the script, but it must include Li Yang's name. However, Lin Qingxuan, born into a wealthy family, turned on him, wanting nothing to do with Li Yang. At the celebration banquet, he took all the credit for himself. There were many students involved who, for personal gain, sided with Lin Qingxuan. Later, the matter was posted on the campus forum. It quickly became. The wealthy senior leads the shooting of the short film, breaking into the mainstream, while supporting the younger student only to be betrayed. The matter caused an uproar. Then, a notice from the school confirmed the conclusion. Li Yang had already anticipated this kind of trickery from Lin Qingxuan. Originally, the reason he participated in the microfilm project was partially because of Chen Yu, but also because he wanted to take down Lin Qingxuan and those who used their position for personal gain. But what he didn't expect was that, in this process, Chen Yu had already gone from suspecting him to convicting him. 2 days ago, during their dinner date, Li Yang had prepared yet another confession. But, due to Chen Yu's questioning, it was over before he even had the chance to speak. "You said you wrote the script, but Lin Qingxuan told me that it was something he paid a large sum of money for. And the quality of the script clearly isn't something that a student who has only studied for a year could produce. So, who should I trust?" For Li Yang, there was only one thing that could hurt him. That was losing trust. "I hate dishonest people. You tell me that you wrote it, but why didn't you fight for this project yourself? Why hand it over to Lin Qingxuan? I know you hate him, and I hate Lin Qingxuan's behavior too, but right is right, wrong is wrong. In this case, you were wrong. Lin Qingxuan is trash for stealing the credit that you deserved. Your revenge is justified, but you were wrong to lie to me like this. I appreciate everything you've done, but I can't accept being deceived. Li Yang still wanted to gain even the slightest bit of trust. It's been a year, you should know what kind of person I am. But all he got was Chen Yu's complete disappointment. I'm the one who was surprised. I never expected that in just 1 year, you've become like this. I'm really disappointed. If you hadn't taken credit for the script, I would have agreed to your confession next time. But now, I'm sorry. I can't accept you, someone who still hasn't learned from their mistakes. Her words were like sharp knives, stabbing at his heart. At that moment, seeing the unwavering disappointment in Chen Yu's eyes, Li Yang turned on the faucet and splashed water on his face. He raised his head and looked at the girl in the mirror. His voice was hoarse. Chen Yu, I'll ask you one last time. Will you trust me? Chen Yu sighed deeply and shook her head. Li Yang, we're done. I was going to give you one last chance. Without looking back, she walked into the bathroom. Li Yang turned around and left, lighting a cigarette as he walked. Li Yang had only one principle when it came to his actions: never let the people he loves and who love him down. From friends, to family, to lovers. And that's why he was obsessive when it came to relationships. What he wanted was trust, the trust that accumulated over years of companionship. He could accept doubt, but he could not accept being condemned. Phew. Li Yang. He looked up. Oh, Yuan. Yuan was Chen Yu's best friend, a member of the student council. She was the first to see the script Li Yang had written with his own hands, and she knew that Li Yang was lying, and also knew what he was trying to do. Yuan waved her hand. Come here. Okay. Li Yang walked toward her, and Yuan stood in the shadowed hallway, with the light shining on Li Yang. He made a move to put out the cigarette he had just lit. I know you're in pain. It's okay, go ahead and smoke. You heard that just now. Li Yang wiped his face, feeling a bit embarrassed. Yeah, I heard. He scratched his face with the hand that was holding the cigarette. Well, then what's up? It's nothing. Actually, no. There's something. I just want to ask, why didn't you tell Chen Yu about this beforehand? Li Yang shook his head. No, you can't tell her. Otherwise, it's all over. Yuan paused and frowned slightly. Chen Yu can keep a secret too. Li Yang held his head, which was a bit swollen from the alcohol. Let me be direct. She's too naive. She would have directly questioned Lin Qingxuan, and all my plans would be ruined. Yuan thought about it for a while, then reluctantly admitted that Li Yang was right. So, is there really no chance for you two anymore? A painful look appeared on his face. Whether it was from the year of effort he had put in or the nausea from the vomiting, he swallowed hard and decisively nodded. In the past, I loved her simplicity and innocence. But, her naivety can't explain her lack of trust in me. It's impossible now, Yuan. When the time comes, help me apologize to her. We've wasted too much time with each other. I'm not right for her, and she's not right for me. Saying that, he leaned on the handrail and sat on the stairs. Go find Chen Yu. I'll stay here for a while. Are you okay? Li Yang waved his hand. Go ahead, my roommates are with me. They are reliable. Millimeter. Before leaving, she looked back at Li Yang, who seemed lost in thought, and sighed. Chapter 2, The So-Called Simpy Guy. By a twist of fate, as Chen Yu and Yuan passed by the emergency exit, they casually glanced at Li Yang, who was sitting in the hallway, smoking a cigarette and exhaling clouds of smoke. Chen Yu let out a cold snort. Immature. You think this will attract my attention? I told you to quit smoking before, forget it. Do whatever you want after this. Li Yang pretended not to hear. Her dissatisfaction grew, and she became even more upset. Li Yang, can't you admit your mistakes? Why are you always so stubborn? But in his eyes, you've always been the immature one. Yuan lowered her head, unable to bear it, and gently tugged at Chen Yu's sleeve. You, stop. I'm just so angry. Chen Yu's words became muffled after that. Who? Li Yang stared into the void, releasing one last puff of smoke before crushing the cigarette butt under his shoe. He passed by the private room where the celebration party had been held countless times before and entered his own room. Inside, there were 3 of his closest friends from university, his roommates. Li Yang had vomited, and his drunkenness had lessened considerably, feeling as though all the negative emotions had been expelled. The obsession with Chen Yu seemed to have faded away. In the middle of the room, his childhood friend, Zhang Wenhai, was passionately singing into a microphone while wearing a striped shirt. Upon seeing Li Yang enter, he glanced at him. He quickly noticed the change in Li Yang's demeanor. What happened? Did something good happen? Nothing. Just figured some things out. Li Yang smiled faintly and shook his head. The tall guy next to him, Zhang Zheng, the Shandong native who was an expert at persuading people to drink, had been tapping on his phone's virtual keyboard. He looked up at Li Yang. My hometown girl is worried about you. She said that we shouldn't make things hard for her since she doesn't remember the promises we made to her. A chubby guy, Lin Qingxuan, who wore glasses, was also scrolling through his phone. Those ignorant bastards are already attacking you on the campus forum. Who told you to care so much? You worked so hard on their microfilm project, which became a huge success, but now someone else has stolen the credit and is trying to take the glory. The school's official account will probably post an announcement about you tomorrow. Li Yang beckoned for the phone, took it, and scanned through it briefly. The official account of Magic City University had shared a post that read, Li Yang claiming credit for others' work, like the farmer and the snake, with a response saying, tomorrow, an official announcement about this will be made. With Lin Qingxuan's usual behavior, it was highly likely that he would spend money to push this news onto trending topics, gaining attention and publicity. It was a win-win for both the school and Lin Qingxuan. Zhang Zheng looked anxious. You're really going to let this slide? If Lin Qingxuan, that hypocrite, keeps making a fuss, the school might expel you. If it gets to that point, we should come clean. We've got millions of followers across different platforms. Someone will recognize that the script is yours. Li Yang had been recommended directly to Magic City University before the college entrance exam, so he had a long period of rest. He used this time to create animation shorts and publish them across various platforms, which gained him some popularity. The original intention behind these animation shorts was that Magic City Media University required students to have a certain number of followers on social media aside from their thesis. Over 5 months, he published 5 animation shorts, gaining tens of thousands of followers and earning a few thousand for living expenses. He had already fulfilled his graduation requirements, so he continued creating. However, after entering university, his free time became limited, making it harder to keep up. In his dorm, his childhood friend was there. Li Yang trusted him, and his 2 other roommates were decent. They decided to operate a small business together in their dorm. Li Yang took 70% of the shares, while the other 3 shared 10% each. These were the company shares, not the profits. The profits were distributed according to KPI performance, so all 4 were evaluated as employees. Li Yang had personally taught them how to create the content, and the revenue was split fairly. That's why he had earned the respect of his roommates. When something like this happened, his roommates were genuinely worried about him. Li Yang couldn't help but think of Chen Yu again. She didn't know about Li Yang's online business. He had originally planned to surprise her, but it seemed like maybe the trust he had earned over the past year wasn't enough. Or maybe the relationship he had hoped for never truly existed. He looked at Zhang Wenhai, who was lazily lounging on the sofa, and couldn't help but smile. No, it still existed. Zhang Wenhai, with a faint smile, said, old Li would never do something stupid. Oh, you get me, Li Yang said, turning to Zhang Zheng. About your hometown girl losing her guaranteed spot, she'll get what she deserves. Tell her not to compromise with Lin Qingxuan. Then he looked at the chubby Jiang Nianhua. Actually, I've already filed the script with Wuxia Script Network. Either we don't make a fuss, or we make it big. Why the hell do these rich people have to steal public resources when they can just do their own thing? I swear, Lin Qingxuan and those assholes in the school deserve to be crushed. If they are not stopped, I'll regret ever attending this school. He slammed his hand on the table. Let me be clear. I've had this plan since a month ago when we were fighting for the script. The risks are high, but I'm asking you all if you're willing to do this. No one can achieve success without some level of secrecy. So, aside from telling Yuan a little bit about the plan, he kept everything else hidden. When it came to seeking help, Li Yang laid everything out on the table. His three friends agreed, and he explained the general direction and each person's responsibilities. Jiang Nianhua's greasy face lit up with surprise. Old Li, you didn't disappoint. I didn't expect you to have everything planned out already. Then why the hell did you act like you were dead the past few days? Zhang Wenhai squinted his eyes, holding a cigarette. Because Chen Yu doesn't trust him. Jiang Nianhua slapped his head. Damn, I can't believe I forgot. I forgot for a second that old Li is a simp. What the hell are you saying? Li Yang snapped. Zhang Zheng extinguished his cigarette. Actually, old Li, I really admire you. You've been simping for Chen Yu for so long, and even though you have evidence, you didn't clear your name. You all think of me as a simp? Li Yang asked. Yep. X3. You all don't get it, Li Yang sighed, looking up at the ceiling lights. What I want in a relationship is full trust, mutual understanding. If I'm going after something beautiful like that, I naturally have to put in more effort than the average person. For example, he once took a 6-hour train ride to buy a cake from a popular store for her just because she mentioned it in a WeChat Moments post. Or waking up 30 minutes earlier every morning to queue for her limited edition Xiao Long Bao. Or on a rainy day when the school flooded, carrying her to the dorm to prevent her shoes from getting wet, then catching a cold for a week, making a video on his account while feeling groggy, only to get blasted with criticism. Or even quitting smoking and exercising just for her, juggling his animation work late into the night while hanging up curtains to write scripts. Jiang Nianhua couldn't help but praise, I can't believe you made simping sound so fresh and unconventional. Impressive. Chapter 3, After the Event. Zhang Wenhai raised his glass, clinking it with Li Yang's. Old Li, are you really not going to chase her anymore? I think once everything settles down, Chen Yu might regret it. He hiccuped, wiped the wine foam off his mouth, and swallowed. Honestly, I'm feeling really down right now, but also a little relieved. This past year, I've become someone I don't even recognize. I quit smoking, became quieter, and revolved around her. All of this was her request, but I didn't even get trust, let alone sincerity. This is a real disaster. Oh. Can you stop joking around when I'm being serious? I still like the quiet, melancholy you, who posts sad quotes on WeChat. Can you go back to that? Li Yang shook his head, pinched Chen Nianhua's chin, and stared at him with affection. Little fatty, that wasn't the real me. Chen Nianhua blushed. Oh old Li, don't do that. Li Yang let go, grinning. You know, if I truly let out my charm, not just women, but even men would fall for me. Chen Nianhua, just go back to normal. The four of them, slightly tipsy, walked out of the private room. Unfortunately, they bumped into the latest round of the celebration party being dismissed. They saw Lin Qingxuan putting his expensive coat over Chen Yu's shoulders. Chen Yu pushed his hand away. Senior, I don't need it. Li Yang glanced at them and quickly looked away. The four of them had different expressions but all simultaneously threw on their coats and turned to leave. Real men never look back. But it didn't take long for the confrontation to happen. Are you not going to apologize? Lin Qingxuan's lackey grabbed Li Yang by the shoulder, pulling him with some force. Li Yang wasn't ready for it and stumbled. Zhang Zheng raised his hand to steady Li Yang, then grabbed the lackey's arm tightly, his 1'9" stature exuding intimidation. His eyes narrowed, and with a cold shout, he said, "Get lost." Li Yang's heart skipped a beat. This guy's boyfriend power is unreal. No wonder he was the muscle in their dorm. With a light push, Zhang Zheng sent the lackey sprawling to the ground. Everyone present was startled by Zhang Zheng's presence. Not only the students, but even the KTV security guards who noticed it didn't dare approach. Zhang Zheng, you've crossed the line. Lin Qingxuan quickly regained his composure, pulling up his lackey, and squinted at them. Are you really going to side with Li Yang? Are you so blinded by so-called brotherhood that you can't even tell right from wrong? How laughable. Zhang Zheng shrugged. We Shandong people always prioritize loyalty. And I'm in the same dorm with him, so of course, I know what kind of person he is. Hearing this, Chen Yu's heart skipped a beat as she looked at Li Yang's indifferent face, realizing that he hadn't even glanced at her. He was a complete stranger. Even if he had been wronged, was this really necessary? She had given him the chance to explain, but he only demanded trust without offering any evidence. What was he trying to do? Was it just about being angry? So immature. Lin Qingxuan frowned when he heard Zhang Zheng's words, a hint of unease creeping in. You really think Li Yang has the ability to write that script? At first, Lin Qingxuan had only planned to amuse himself by mocking these commoners. After all, what fun did rich people have if not tormenting the poor? He had slept with most of the girls with some charm, using money to get what he wanted. Those who refused, he'd handle with the university's resources. There had been a girl once who absolutely refused to pay, so her graduate school recommendation slot was gone just like that. But Chen Yu's family had some influence, and ordinary tactics wouldn't work on her. The only boy who might be used to pressure her was Li Yang. Recently, the university had a microfilm project where students could freely compete. Freely was subjective, it depended on whether Lin Qingxuan felt like playing along. After all, he had the power to stop certain people from joining. Li Yang, aware of this, had realized he was going to be excluded, so he went to Lin Qingxuan and insisted that Chen Yu be the female lead. He even offered to give up all credit for the work as long as Chen Yu played the role. Lin Qingxuan found it amusing. At first, he had just wanted to see what Li Yang was up to, so he allowed him to take full control of the project, from filming to editing. What he hadn't expected was that this short film made both Magic City University and Chen Yu a hot topic. Chen Yu even became popular outside the university, stepping into the entertainment industry with one foot. That was when Lin Qingxuan decided to take the credit. The script had been submitted by Lin Qingxuan, and he had even changed the name to his own. Cooperation? Who could testify? From the outside, it seemed like Lin Qingxuan had bought a great script, seized the opportunity, and achieved unprecedented success. He had been involved in the entire filming process, all the way to the final product, and even gave the reins to his junior. But this junior had the audacity to cause a ruckus. Then, through forum manipulation and the university's support, it became a done deal. Lin Qingxuan, having stepped on Li Yang, turned his reputation around among the new students. It was easier to sleep with girls now, they were practically throwing themselves at him. But to win Chen Yu, he had to endure. Moreover, it wasn't just about the short film. Lin Qingxuan's family had noticed his talent in this area and was considering handing him a part of their business. That had been his goal all along. More importantly, his image had completely changed. From a playboy with no talent, he had transformed into a charming young man. Lin Qingxuan immediately tasted the sweetness of success. But he didn't expect Li Yang to resist. However, it wasn't a big problem. Once he showed him the reality of society, Li Yang would fall into line. By then, he'd be completely broken, his future destroyed, and wouldn't care about things like innocence. It seemed like Li Yang still wanted to struggle. Lin Qingxuan narrowed his eyes. A flea shaking a tree, how laughable to overestimate yourself. Li Yang saw through Lin Qingxuan's thoughts and smiled bitterly. I give up. Lin Qingxuan, you win. Lin Qingxuan was stunned for a moment, then sneered. Stubborn as a mule. You're just putting up a front. He said coldly, you do have some talent, but it's a shame you went down the wrong path out of jealousy. I forgive you. Thanks for the forgiveness. I'll speak to the academy on your behalf. Thanks, goodbye. With that, the four of them turned their backs and left, walking side by side with smiles that could only be described as satisfied. The service staff on the opposite side cowered against the wall in fear. Once outside the KTV, the four of them sang joyfully, each of them taking turns to sing loudly. Today's a good day, Tilder. Tomorrow, we'll cremate your horse, Tilder. Meanwhile, the celebrants slowly walked toward the KTV entrance. Lin Qingxuan looked at Chen Yu, Xiao Yu, there's a late-night movie screening, shall we go watch it and find some inspiration? No, she replied, linking arms with her best friend Gwan. Wan is staying at my place tonight, and I need to head back early. Lin Qingxuan smiled like a gentleman, then let me walk you home. My father will be picking me up later, Chen Yu politely declined. Oh, then we'll meet up next time. He dared not provoke Chen Yu's father. She neither agreed nor refused, simply murmuring a half-hearted, It was getting late, and everyone went their separate ways. Soon, only Wan and Chen Yu were left. The two girls hadn't had any alcohol but still carried the smell of the private room with them. They walked along the street to air it out while waiting for Chen Yu's father to pick her up. Chapter 4, Yay! The early autumn evening breeze was incredibly pleasant, and today was a good day for Chen Yu. The promotional short film from Magic City University had gone viral, trending online. Because of that short film, she had received several offers from talent agencies, all with decent terms. What made her happiest was that her usually busy father had come home today to specifically celebrate her success. Always saying, "I haven't grown up now, you know how capable your daughter is, right?" And by her side, Ewan's growing sense of guilt finally reached its breaking point. Unable to hold it in any longer, she murmured, "You, do you think, maybe you were wrong about Li Yang?" Chen Yu sighed and shook her head. Don't defend him anymore. Ewan bit her lip. Back then, I had gastroenteritis, so I wasn't clear about the situation. But you know, Li Yang, he didn't even look at the script when he was the assistant director. So what does that prove? Does it mean he fully understood the script? I know he has some talent, but that's a separate issue. Why can't you give Li Yang some trust? I'm on the student council, and I've seen the original script. That handwriting is definitely his. Isn't he that enough to prove his innocence? But she couldn't say that out loud. As Chen Yu's best friend, she still warned, if you really misunderstood him, what will you do? What she had said earlier was indeed a bit harsh. Now, she didn't feel like it was the end between Chen Yu and Li Yang. She had enjoyed being pursued by Li Yang, and if he truly changed, Chen Yu would give him another chance. She and Ewan would also create more tests for Li Yang to prove he had really turned over a new leaf. If the worst case happened and Li Yang really was innocent, he would surely forgive her. Chen Yu was very confident about that. "If that's the case, I'll apologize," Chen Yu said calmly. Ewan raged inwardly. "That's not enough, Chen Yu. Just an apology won't cut it. You'll regret it. You're wrong. You shouldn't have abused his affection like that, setting up all those so-called love tests, thinking you know what's best. I was wrong too. I shouldn't have helped you make things worse." The light from her phone screen illuminated Chen Yu's increasingly delighted face as she read all the compliments from online users. But Ewan's expression grew darker. She took a deep breath. "Chen Yu, I'm still not feeling well. I want to go home. Do you need me to take you to the hospital?" Ewan shook her head. "No, I'll be fine after a nap. Sorry." She couldn't take the emotional burden anymore. When she got home, she planned to take a few days off and wait for Li Yang's situation to be resolved before returning to school. After being on Chen Yu's side for so long, this time, she would stand with Li Yang. In the distance, by the roadside under a camphor tree, a young man slumped on a flower bed, discarded cigarette butts scattered around him. His phone lit up for a moment. He glanced at it, his eyes widening as he pressed the voice message button, shouting into the phone, "I'm crying my eyes out, I'm telling you it's nothing. I'll be home soon. Chen Yu, you bastard, cancel the location on my phone." He angrily turned off the phone and stuffed it into his pocket. Searching his pocket, he found no cigarettes left. Picking up a half-smoked butt from the ground, he patted his pants and stood up. Time to go home and see his mom. He and Zhang Wenhai had grown up together in an orphanage. They were childhood friends from the same orphanage. Later, both of them found their biological parents, and although they were older when they reunited with their families, the bitterness gradually faded over the years. When you're sad and heartbroken, your friends will comfort you, but family will heal you. So, after leaving the KTV, Li Yang just wanted to go home. He thought he didn't care anymore, but walking alone on the cold street, the feeling of loneliness overwhelmed him, and his bitterness peaked. "Chen Yu, how could you not trust me? I, Li Yang, am so worthless in your eyes." He wandered like a lost soul, his tears and snot smeared across his face, resembling a clown. A car stopped by the curb. A middle-aged man with a stern look turned to his daughter. Is he calling you?" Chen Yu avoided eye contact, hesitating. Ewan stepped in, replying, "Uncle, he's a junior from our school." Her father lowered the car window slightly. "Come here, let me give you a ride." The middle-aged man smiled kindly, waving his hand. Li Yang froze, slowly turning his head. He knew who the middle-aged man was, Chen Yu's father. He had seen him several times near the school entrance. They had even exchanged greetings. If I've done something wrong, let the law punish me, but please don't let me suffer social death. Li Yang suddenly snapped out of it, wiped his face, and wiped his nose on a tree. With a forced smile, he said, "Uncle. You're Li Yang? I've heard my daughter mention your name. It's an honor." Having a disagreement. Li Yang scratched his head awkwardly. No, uncle, goodbye. I'll head home now. I'll give you a ride. No, it's not far. The alley is too narrow for a car. What's going on? The middle-aged man sped off in the car. Chen Yu explained briefly what happened, leaving out the part about Li Yang's pursuit of her. Her father was a bit surprised. Doesn't he seem like the kind of person? Dad, but this is what happened. Her father furrowed his brows, then relaxed them. You kids can handle your own matters. I won't interfere. Wan asked curiously, Uncle, you know Li Yang? He nodded. A little. Chen Yu's face flushed with embarrassment. Dad. Don't investigate my classmates. Okay, I won't mention it anymore. Her father shook his head helplessly, lightly tapping the steering wheel, lost in thought. Chen Yu pressed the window button, letting the cool breeze brush her cheeks, but for some reason, she felt a little uneasy. She unlocked her phone and checked the screen. It had been almost 3 days, and Li Yang still hadn't contacted her. Even if he didn't want to talk about the script, he could have said something else. She just wanted to talk, and once they both felt better, they could clear things up face to face. He had wanted to say something a few times, but why couldn't he speak up? She wasn't just angry about the script. Back then, she hadn't meant to get so angry, but when she spoke, Li Yang's disappointed expression had made her furious. Normally, his gaze was, but today. Could it be that she had wronged him? WAN, do you know something? She sent WAN a message on WeChat. I don't know. Alright, I'm planning to visit some talent agencies in the next few days. Would you like to come with me? WAN thought for a moment, then sent a thumbs up emoji. Chen Yu switched off her screen, thought for a moment, then switched it back on. She opened her photo gallery. She flipped through the pictures of her and Li Yang together. If I wronged you, I'll confess to you. Surely, you can't stay mad at me, right? Chen Yu thought to herself, well, once I finish the signing stuff, I'll arrange to meet him. Back then, she had been misled by the school forum and the announcement, and then Li Yang had made her so angry. When she spoke coldly, she wanted him to coax her. Now, looking back at the moments she had shared with Li Yang, she felt something wasn't quite right. She typed out a message good night. But that night, she didn't get a reply. Chapter 5, What's going on? What the hell is going on today? Li Yang looked up at the sky and sighed deeply. On his way home, he had encountered a thug. He was robbed. And it was still ongoing, as a girl, whom he had never met, had him trapped in a bear hug. It had already been 10 minutes. No matter how much he asked, the girl wouldn't answer and didn't let go either. From her appearance, the girl seemed to be about the same age as Li Yang. However, her mental state was clearly off. After all, why would someone so cute be out on the streets at midnight grabbing random men? Her hair was frizzing and shaking with every movement, and she was dressed in a denim overall skirt. Tilting her head back, Li Yang could see himself reflected in her wide, blinking eyes. She looked smug, as if she had finally caught him. Li Yang sighed again and tried to break free, but her hold tightened. He could feel her soft body pressing against his abdomen. She had some assets. Li Yang never thought poorly of himself, he knew he was decent looking. But he never imagined he would be caught in a situation like this with an obsessed girl. He stopped struggling and asked, "What do you want?" The girl opened her mouth, and Li Yang could see her pink tongue and tonsils shaking as she tried to say something. R. Li Yang felt a bit of pity for her and nodded in agreement. Oh. It seemed like she was wondering, huh? You're wondering how I can understand you? He asked. She nodded enthusiastically, R. Seeing her silly expression, Li Yang chuckled, actually, I can't understand you. Who can? Despite not being able to speak, the girl was still quite lively. Her big eyes and quirky eyebrows paired with her clueless look made her irresistibly cute. She was almost too adorable to handle. It looked like she wanted to explain but couldn't get the words out. She flicked her tiny tongue and urgently kept repeating, R, R, R. Li Yang feigned frustration, I can't understand, I'm sorry. R, 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 she grew even more anxious. All right, I know you can't talk, Li Yang said. She nodded with satisfaction, R. Li Yang knew he could easily break free, but the girl's entire weight was on him, and if he moved, she would fall, which might hurt her. Though her arms looked chubby, they were too delicate. Her skin and clothes suggested she came from a good family, and she might have gotten lost. Li Yang was an ethical person and had moved beyond lowly desires. Whether she was rich or not, he wasn't going to take advantage of someone with disabilities. So, he just endured the situation and let the girl cling to him. Seeing that Li Yang wasn't speaking, the girl rested her head against his chest. He became concerned, why aren't you going home at this hour? What are you doing out here? R, she replied. Do you want to use sign language to help explain? Let go of me, I promise I won't run away. R, she tightened her grip. Li Yang helplessly sighed, do we have no basic trust between us? She nodded firmly, R. Li Yang thought for a moment, okay if you let me go, I'll take you home. She shook her head violently, R. Then what do you want to do? Don't tell me you're really some obsessed girl. Huh? She looked puzzled. Li Yang explained, an obsessed girl means a perverted woman who is obsessed with someone. R. She seemed deeply offended and started to argue fiercely, R. All right, you're not one of those. R. She seemed satisfied. Li Yang looked into her eyes, do you like me? R. She didn't hesitate and nodded. Li Yang was well practiced at rejecting confessions, sorry, you're a nice person. She remained silent. For the next half hour, Li Yang was exhausted and bored, but the girl still wouldn't let go. He absent-mindedly blew on her errant hair, when suddenly he came up with an idea. You said you're not an obsessed girl. R. She blinked in response. Then why are you holding on to me at this late hour? She tried to explain, R. Right now, I can't understand you, and you can't explain, but I have an idea. Huh? She seemed intrigued. Li Yang smiled and said, you know the saying, the eyes are the windows to the soul. To prove you're not obsessed, you need to look into my eyes and show me your righteous heart. R, she repeated with more focus, nodding seriously. Her eyes lit up, and she fixed her gaze on Li Yang. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a full minute. The girl's eyes started to dry out. And veins appeared in her eyeballs. Finally, she blinked. Li Yang was overjoyed, aha, you really are obsessed. The girl looked upset. She rubbed her eyes and complained, R. A few seconds later, she opened her eyes again and saw Li Yang running away. Li Yang, on the other hand, saw a middle-aged man in a suit approaching him. The man had a strong build and shared some facial features with the girl. Li Yang immediately decided to flee. The middle-aged man saw him and naturally greeted, hey, digger. Li Yang's cheek twitched, and to avoid further awkwardness, he nodded back. No wonder the girl was acting weird, this was where she came from. As Li Yang passed the man, a row of bodyguards wearing black suits and sunglasses marched in unison. 7 of them, walking in perfect formation, highly trained. Li Yang slowed his pace, just in case he was mistaken for a suspicious person. He waved as he jogged, thanks for your hard work. The bodyguards nodded in unison and responded in chorus, no trouble at all. Li Yang was caught off guard by their reply and awkwardly smiled as he stepped aside. He was just an ordinary passerby who had encountered the president's daughter unexpectedly. Li Yang didn't want to be involved with people like that. He liked to stir things up when it was his choice, but when trouble came looking for him, he preferred to avoid it. But sometimes, you couldn't run from certain things. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the quiet street, catch him. Yes, digger. Li Yang froze, his face twitching as he turned to face 8 large men who had suddenly surrounded him. He tried to reason with them, is it possible that I'm just a normal guy? The man in the center, wearing a badge on his chest, immediately revealed himself to be the head of the bodyguards. He lifted his sunglasses slightly and stared at Li Yang. No, I can see it. You are digger. Li Yang wiped his forehead. Wait, is this some kind of contagious thing? He frowned in confusion. I don't understand what you're talking about. Look. A UFO. Li Yang was suddenly blindfolded, and something soft wrapped around him. It was likely the obsessed girl again. She was now lying on top of him, sound asleep. Li Yang felt his front completely soaked with her drool. And both his hands and legs were tied to a chair. Li Yang was too exhausted to complain, silently lamenting in his mind, what the hell is going on here? Chapter 6 The Past Part 1. He was sure that he was in a car, heading in a certain direction. He could hear people breathing everywhere. They had just laughed at Li Yang for using their flying saucer joke, and they were chatting in a friendly manner while tying him up. Li Yang felt okay. These people either had no ill intentions or were perverts. The most likely possibility was that they were perverts, but not perverts with no malicious intentions. He couldn't help but consider another thing: was it possible that he would lose his virginity today? Damn it, boys really have to protect themselves when they are outside. I have a question. Li Yang spoke in trepidation. There had been a question in his mind just now. The middle-aged man in a suit crossed his arms and said calmly, Ask, you should know. Why do bodyguards have to wear sunglasses in the middle of the night? Doesn't it affect vision? It's very strange. Hiss, yes, why didn't I think of it? Yes, brother, you don't have to wear it at night, I have a mark on my temple now. Shut up, this is the rule of our industry. Right, boss. The middle-aged man nodded seriously. I think this question is worth discussing. Since when did it become a rule that bodyguards must wear sunglasses? A pair of sunglasses costs 2,000 yuan, and you are still old. Yes, the security expenditure is 200,000 yuan a year just for sunglasses. Did the purchasers embezzle money? Li Yang frowned. A pair of sunglasses costs 2,000 yuan, which is too expensive. Boss, I have the receipt. Boss, I can testify that the boss is not embezzling money. Li Yang smiled slightly. Right. Everyone benefits, I will testify if it's my turn. Ha, this kid, why is he always trying to sow discord? Boss, you won't doubt us, will you? Along the way, these people finally sorted out the reimbursement matter. I say, Lao Kai, you can't be like this. You blocked their reimbursement of 300,000 yuan, so they had to resort to this desperate measure. You will lose their trust. Lao Kai scratched his face. Har. I will report it to them later. I have to criticize the accountant. The bodyguard captain untied Li Yang's hands and feet and the blindfold on his eyes. Nowadays, the boss always blames the accountant when there is a problem. Li Yang took the opportunity to pick up the girl, who said it wasn't. The world is going downhill, alas, all capitalists deserve to die. These people were already chatting happily, and Li Yang blended in and completely forgot the point. A group of people walked and talked. Walking in front of a luxurious villa, the bodyguards began to line up. A hot young woman stood at the door of the villa. Li Yang then realized that there was a sleeping girl hanging on his body. He was sure that the girl's development should be based on her mother. The young woman walked quickly to meet Li Yang, looking very welcoming. You are Tiger, right? He realized it belatedly, covering his head. I've been assimilated. In short, they dragged and tugged and half-pushed into the villa. Li Yang put the girl on the sofa. The girl rubbed her eyes, blinking her big watery eyes, and found Li Yang, who was sitting on the side, then straddled Li Yang and hugged him. Lao Kai held 2 disposable cups. Tiger, drink some water. My name is Li Yang. He was already crying but had no tears, and took the teacup with his hands and feet tied. Can you tell me why you call me Tiger? The young woman brought a plate of fruit. We also know your name is Li Yang, but Momo is used to calling you Tiger, so we just call you that. Li Yang wiped her face. I still don't understand. The young woman sat on the right side of Li Yang, holding the girl's hand, stroking her gently, and said, Child, do you remember what happened 12 years ago, when you were still in an orphanage? How could he forget? This was the source of his nightmare for more than 10 years. 12 years ago, Li Yang was 8 years old, and his biological parents had not found him yet. As long as he could remember, he had lived in an orphanage named Qianwei. Because it was not a formal orphanage and the procedures were not complete, no one had adopted him. And at this age, it was difficult to find kind people to adopt him. Gradually, he understood his situation. However, Li Yang has been a contented person since he was a child. At least he was not sent to a black-hearted welfare home. He is very satisfied with his life. The director's grandmother is very kind and even ensures that every child can go to school. The Rose Welfare Home is built at the foot of a mountain. As the saying goes, it is rich to go up the mountain, but hard to go down the mountain. Li Yang knows this truth very well. On weekends, as long as he finishes his homework, he goes to the mountain to pick up things. Straight wooden sticks, strange-shaped mushrooms, beautiful wild flowers and so on. But Li Yang finishes his homework the fastest. He is always the first to finish his homework and is too lazy to wait. There are so many little girls in the welfare home. Each of them has to give a flower, and each little boy has to prepare a stick. As the eldest, he is very busy. There is a dilapidated temple on the top of the mountain. It is his secret base with his brothers and sisters. He finishes his homework the fastest and goes there alone. But that day, the door of the dilapidated temple was closed. It was the age to find cats and dogs to play with. Curious, Li Yang saw a scene that he would never forget through the crack of the door. There was a girl lying quietly behind the threshold. Her skin was waxy yellow, fear remained on her small face, her belly was cut open, her internal organs were emptied, and blood plasma was all over the floor. There were 5 other girls next to her, all tied up, but with rags stuffed in their mouths, dirty, with fear in their eyes, and one of the twin sisters had fainted. There was another girl lying on the table of the ruined temple, and the middle-aged man, with blood all over his face, raised a sharp knife. For some reason, facing such a horrible scene, Li Yang did not run away. Although he was trembling all over, he quickly picked up a stone from the ground and smashed it hard at the temple door. The door panel hit the ground with a clang, and the 8-year-old Li Yang shouted, "Don't be afraid, Ultraman Tiger is coming." The middle-aged man was stunned, and Li Yang took advantage of his unpreparedness and smashed the middle-aged man's head with a stone. A miracle happened. The stone, which weighed only 3 or 4 pounds, hit the middle-aged man's head with great accuracy. It was unknown what acupuncture point it hit, but the middle-aged man fainted and fell to the ground. Li Yang hurriedly picked up a sharp knife to untie all the living girls, and directed the girls who could still move to lift the door panel out of the ruined temple together. The 2 fainted girls and the girl who could no longer walk on the table, as well as the body, were placed on the door panel. Several children worked together to drag them down the mountain. Chapter 7: Going Down. When they arrived at the foot of the mountain, they happened to meet a police car that was woo. A large number of police officers with live ammunition opened the door and got out of the car. Some were leading police dogs, some were carrying explosion-proof shields, and some were carrying rifles. Li Yang realized it later and was very scared. He sent a little girl to call the police uncle, and he sneaked back to the welfare home. But this big case eventually came to light. Several groups of people came to see him. Now he can't remember what they look like, but whenever he mentions this, he will tremble all over, shout and scream, dare not go up the mountain, and even dare not go to school. He only wants to stay with the director's grandmother. Later, many good things happened. The Rose Welfare Home moved to a better place, and Li Yang gradually returned to normal. And all the children in the welfare home found their families. Now that I think about it, it is probably the parents of the rescued children who did it out of gratitude. When Li Yang grew up, he always thought of this incident and felt that it was probably the most glorious moment of his life, but he always thought of the dead girl, which was like a thorn in his throat. He felt guilty. He never mentioned it to outsiders. Even most of the children in the welfare home didn't know what happened that year. Li Yang rubbed the girl's head in his arms, his eyes were full of tears. What else was there to understand? This sister should be one of them at that time. Mother Kai held her daughter's hand and looked at Li Yang. "We don't know how to thank you, but you would collapse when you mentioned this matter at that time, and later you would even feel uneasy when you saw us, so we agreed not to disturb you. No wonder I feel that uncle and aunt are familiar." Li Yang swallowed his saliva and said with difficulty, "That dead girl, forget it, it's useless." After a while, he said again, "If I could finish my homework faster at that time." Even if Father Kai replied thinking of it, he felt his eyes sore and said with emotion, "You think too highly of yourself. You were only 8 years old at that time. And the next person that beast was going to kill was my daughter. I can tell you with certainty that you saved all 6 lives. If there was too much noise when the police were searching, or if he heard the sirens of police cars, that beast would definitely kill all the children without hesitation. Why did he do this? They were all girls, and most of them were of similar age. Later, he checked it out, and in the public information, this case seemed to have never happened. Thinking that it might be to protect the victim, Li Yang did not investigate further. Now that there was an insider, his desire to explore was really suppressed. Lao Kai held a cigarette in his mouth, turned on the air purifier at hand, looked at his wife and daughter again, and finally put the cigarette back into the cigarette box. That beast originally had a daughter, and his daughter was targeted by a powerful family. A child in that family had an acute disease and needed an urgent liver transplant. However, due to the special blood type and young age, there was no suitable donor, so he secretly contacted the hospital and secretly matched the blood type. In the end, his daughter was successfully matched and was abducted. The girl's body has not been found so far, and the case of the girl's disappearance has been closed. And the girl's father gradually found out part of the truth by himself in the past 2 years, but he couldn't find out who did it. So, he abducted all the little girls in the city who were close in age and had a good family background. These girls are not ordinary children. In order to avoid suspicion, he didn't have much contact with them before abducting them. After abducting 7, the whole city began martial law, and he ran to the nearby mountains, but he checked every girl and found no signs of surgery. But he still wanted revenge. If he missed this time, he would have no chance. In his opinion, all powerful people are the same. He felt that he had figured it out. After killing the child, he would tell the victim's parents the truth. Anyway, his life was ruined, and he only had one life to die. No matter what kind of torture, he didn't care, because he would die anyway. And these powerful people will definitely find his enemies to vent their anger. It was such an extreme person who committed such a crime. As a father, I can understand his feelings, but he probably can't understand the feelings of other fathers. Father Kai sighed deeply, then stared at the girl's peaceful and satisfied expression and smiled. Li Yang took a deep breath. Did he get his revenge? Old Kai shook his head. It's a headless case, there's no way to find out. The few people who handled the hospital either went abroad or died. There are few suspects, but there is no evidence, and people of that status can't be easily overturned. Mother Kai picked up a piece of cantaloupe and handed it to Li Yang. Child, don't say it, it's over. Li Yang took the fruit and thanked him. After a moment of silence. So, why did uncle and aunt find me? Although the girl's body was very soft and it was quite comfortable to be held, it was really embarrassing in front of her parents. Lao Kai showed a bitter look on his face. Those girls who survived have more or less developed post-traumatic stress disorder, especially my daughter. Because of that shock, she still can't speak. Have you seen a psychologist? I have, but it's useless. Every year at this time, she will experience the scene of that time in her mind. Then she will yell and ask why Tiger hasn't come yet. The so-called Tiger is you. We never thought of disturbing your life, so usually at this time, we would use AR and other technologies to create an 8-year-old you to comfort her. Li Yang? But her time seems to be repeated, always 8 years old. Later we followed the advice of experts, using your recent image to make it, her time also began to move forward. Li Yang. But she is still as sensitive as ever, and has not improved much. And we have been trying to teach her basic common sense and corresponding knowledge. She actually knows the difference between virtual and real things, so she has been asking for you. Li Yang. This is the first time I have seen her clinging to someone like she did when she was a child. All these things are enough to show that you have an irreplaceable role in her. He stood up and bowed deeply. As a father, I ask you to help my daughter. She is so pitiful. She is obviously at the age of enjoying youth, but she is trapped in her own world. I really don't know what to do. Chapter 8 3,000 a month. Li Yang was hanging asleep in koala, unable to get up and help, but it would be a lie to say he was not moved. Uncle, don't say that. I should help, please don't do this. Even if he is middle-aged, a father's feelings for his daughter will only become stronger with the passage of time, and he couldn't help but burst into tears. He held Li Yang's hand. Thank you so much. He wiped away the tears from the corners of his eyes. Jiangluan, you give Momo a bath first, I will talk to Xiao Li about the details. Mother Kai also sobbed, silently took out a 3D mask from the gap in the sofa, put it on her face, and gently patted her daughter's shoulder. Momo, go take a bath. Li Yang? Kaimo rubbed his eyes, raised his head and looked at the long-haired Li Yang and the real body Li Yang. Aha. She reached out and pinched Li Yang's face, kissed him, and smiled triumphantly. As if to say, you want to lie to me too? Kai's mother was very embarrassed. Does Xiao Li have to bathe Momo in the future? As a businessman, Kai's father was very smart and quickly thought of a solution. He walked into a room, took out a real tiger mask and handed it to Li Yang. After Li Yang put it on, Kai Mo raised his head, a little confused. Then he stretched out his hand and tried to break the mask. I forgot, my daughter now has emotional problems caused by their disease, but her intelligence is no different from that of ordinary girls. It seems that there is no way. Xiao Li. Li Yang trembled all over, looked at Kai Mo's puzzled eyes, and persuaded, only stupid, bad girls will let boys bathe them. I hate bad girls the most. Kai Mo's limp body finally got off Li Yang's body and tugged at Kai's mother's sleeve. Kai's mother's eyes flashed with tears, took off the mask, and cast a grateful look at Li Yang. Holding her daughter, she walked into the bathroom. Her voice was very soft. Baby, do you want an 8-year-old tiger doll or an 18-year-old tiger doll today? Kai Mo raised 2 fingers. You want both, Momo, you are too greedy. Girls can't be so greedy. Mother Kai rubbed her daughter's head lovingly. You know it's the same person, so smart. Kai Mo turned her head to look at Li Yang. Her magnificent chest was trembling when she patted it. She was very proud. Li Yang's mouth twitched. Yeah, so smart. She smiled sweetly and shook her hand. Li Yang replied helplessly, go. At this time, he was determined to cure Kai Mo otherwise. When he woke up in the middle of the night, he would think of a corner of the magic city, where not only his mask was hidden, but also dolls made with him as the prototype. This is too scary. Father Kai threw a pack of cigarettes to Li Yang, who didn't act pretentiously and took it and put it in his pocket. Great, it's a brand I've never seen before, I can show it off later. Consider it all mental damage compensation. He picked up a piece of fruit with a toothpick and put it in his mouth to chew. As soon as he relaxed, his eyelids began to fight. So Li Yang went straight to the point. Uncle, how should I cooperate with your daughter's treatment? Father Kai rubbed his chin. The doctor's advice is to have more contact with you. The specific details should be waited for a period of contact before going to see a doctor. I have an empty building near your school. If you are willing, you can stay with my daughter for a while. After all, you still have studies, and she seems to be more dependent on you, so your aunt and I sometimes can't take care of her, but don't worry, bodyguards and nannies are all provided, and I will provide good protection for my daughter in life. As for the remuneration, you name a price. Li Yang scratched his face and casually reported a number, 3,000 a month. Father Kai looked disgusted. 300,000. Our bodyguard leader has a monthly salary of 200,000. My daughter is more valuable than that bastard. The bodyguard captain coughed twice at the door. Li Yang shook his head. Then find someone else. The price is too high. I am not at ease. Father Kai sighed. Then you and I will both take a step back. The monthly salary is 297,000. Li Yang? You are too hypocritical as a young man. 3,000 is 3,000. After leaving the memories, Father Kai regained his lively personality. Li Yang shrugged. If I can make your daughter recover, I can take any amount of money. By the way, I'm still in college now. Does that mean Kai Mo should go to college with me? Father Kai nodded. That's what I mean. She has no problem with intelligence, and is even smarter than ordinary people. I hope to let her get in touch with the world outside the family. Uncle, I will try my best. Still call me uncle. Li Yang? Why don't you know how to be funny? He looked at Li Yang jokingly and sniffed. As far as I know, you are not so rigid. Sometimes when the opportunity comes, it is better to be flexible. Li Yang? Li Yang still felt that there was still a genetic factor. He thought of something and felt a little embarrassed. Uncle, either, you should go and discuss it with my parents in person when you are free. Kai's father nodded. No problem, your parents are easy to talk to. When I asked them to trick you into going for a physical examination and modeling Kai Mo, they immediately agreed. Li Yang? He said why every time the family went for a physical examination, his parents were unusually happy, as if they had done something good. Then it's settled. The residence near the school is already under renovation. It will take about 3 days. According to previous experience, my daughter will be more sensitive these days. Can you take care of her first? It's better to stay here at night. What do you mean? My daughter is so cute. You won't suffer any loss if you sleep with her. Li Yang wiped his face. Sleeping together is too, let's think of other ways, but, you really trust me? Kai's father had no expression on his face. As the father of my daughter, I feel as uncomfortable as if I had eaten shit. But. He took a deep puff of cigarette and exhaled a huge smoke ring. Who? He looked at Li Yang, as if he was reminiscing about a certain period of time. He couldn't help but put on a painful mask. He said faintly, Xiao Li, do you know what it feels like to wear someone else's mask to coax your daughter to sleep? 12 years. 12 whole years. Do you know how I got through these 12 years? Li Yang covered his face. Although he was embarrassed, he was really laughing so hard that he almost had cramps. It's getting late, let's talk business. Father Kai sat up straight, crossed his arms. As things stand now, she still has a certain degree of acceptance of women. But she will have physical discomfort with men other than you. The key is that her sexual orientation is still normal. If she is not cured, then I can only ask her to marry you. I only have this daughter, and this family business will be handed over to professional managers to manage, and the profits will belong to you too. If you can get married, I guarantee that you will have no worries about food and clothing in this life. You only want 3,000 a month, do you have to include this condition? Yeah, I didn't force you to only want 3,000, otherwise why do you think I offered you 300,000 a month? Gurgle. He swallowed. Chapter 9. What the hell? Is my daughter not pretty? Not cute? Doesn't she have a good figure? He paid money and got the most precious treasure in his heart, but this young man still hesitated. Yes. She can't speak. But she is cute. Father Kai's anger was rising. Li Yang knew that he had done nothing, but it seemed that he was too much, so he quickly explained. You don't have to be so angry, I just think, it's not that serious, I'm just helping. Bullshit. You just dislike my daughter, look down on her, and think she can't speak. Father Kai was furious. Li Yang quickly comforted him, Uncle. I actually like girls with innocent personalities, but Kai Mo is, a little too, naive. And, it's not that you decide on the rest of your life right after meeting. This is too hasty and unfair to your daughter. She will regret it one day when she returns to normal. Father Kai pointed at his nose, do you think I am irresponsible? I just gave my daughter to someone else. He crossed his arms and said seriously, do you think I haven't investigated your experience from childhood to adulthood, height, weight and physical examination report, for the happiness of my daughter, I even know your length. I even found a way to check your browser history. I even asked 3 fortune tellers in various fields to match the 8 characters, and they all said it was good. Why do you say that I hastily decided on my daughter's second half of her life? I am serious. Li Yang was very sleepy. Although he vomited some of the wine he drank, he was still a little drunk. With the superposition of the two, he could no longer think normally. After listening to what Father Kai said, his brain was even more overwhelmed. In other words, his CPU was already overwhelmed. Father Kai was breathing very fast. You are still hesitating. You just think my daughter is abnormal and dislike her. Then. I was wrong. Why don't you change your words? Hurry up. Don't make me angry. Li Yang said in a daze, Our father-in-law. Hey. My dear son-in-law, we are family now. He turned into a master of face-changing, smiling very kindly, you kid, good. Now my daughter's belly is big, and I, as a father, can only support you. If you betray my daughter in the future, I will strike you to pieces. Li Yang woke up in an instant. He shouted to the door, Xiaojiang. The captain of the bodyguards came over with a notebook. It has been edited according to your instructions. Li Yang looked at several bodyguards, holding a ladder to dismantle the camera in the corner, and his mouth twitched slightly. He was originally wondering why such a rich man would install a camera in his living room. Uncle. Shut up. If you marry someone else in the future, I will send someone to rent all the electronic screens in your city to play this video in a loop. Li Yang rubbed his eyebrows. This joke was really too much, Uncle. Father Kai interrupted his spell again. As a father, I am really helpless. What if my daughter is not cured? I always need a guarantee. You don't love money. If it really happens, I will be struck by lightning. If it is really impossible, I will not. I may not force it. And you just asked me why I trust you so much. To be honest, she is so attached to you now, and she can't leave you. As an old father, I have to worry that you will do something to my daughter. My daughter is so sensible that I need a little protection. I believe that you, Xiao Li, can understand my difficulties. Of course, I also know the charm of my daughter, but you must remember that if you do something you shouldn't do before marriage, even if your uncle understands you, he will have to play this video in advance. Li Yang? Of course, if my daughter takes the initiative to make physical contact, such as today, I will not blame you. But if it comes to the last step, even if she takes the initiative, you have to refuse. Do you understand? Li Yang nodded with difficulty. Actually, I won't do such a thing. You worry too much. Yes, I didn't say I don't believe you. He nodded. He picked up his phone, opened the interface, and pressed the virtual button to send a voice message. Send the previously drafted agreement at dawn. Uncle, what is this agreement? Father Kai spread his hands. I will eventually die of old age, so I set up a fund overseas, mainly to ensure that my daughter can get loyal love. If Momo's future husband cheats, he will die ugly. Alas, pitiful parents in the world. He sighed. Uncle, you really love Momo. Yes, who told you to save 6 rich daughters at once? It doesn't matter, it happened 12 years ago, I won't use this to threaten others. And I may not be with Momo's sister. Yes, okay, no force. Li Yang? At this time, the bathroom door opened. Both mother and daughter changed into pajamas, dried their hair with a hair dryer, and tied the most convenient buns. Li Yang looked at Kai's father and felt envious. He was really lucky to have 2 angels. If I were his age, I would be so happy. Kai Mo's face was particularly pink because of the heat. Because it was summer, her nightgown was very short. There was a layer of white gauze under the hem. Her white and tight thighs were faintly visible in the white gauze. Da. She ran quickly to Li Yang. Li Yang looked at Kai's mother. Kai's mother was obviously embarrassed and explained, she asked you to take a shower. Li Yang swallowed his saliva. No way. I didn't persuade her. Kai's mother was very embarrassed, she must sleep with you. Kai Mo crossed his arms, just like his father, and nodded his head very seriously. She just said that you ran away secretly just now, and she was afraid that you would run away secretly this time. Li Yang, auntie, how did you understand? As long as there is love, you can understand. Kai's mother seriously said, one day you will understand. Li Yang, can I refuse? Oh. Kai Mo shook his white hands anxiously. She said no, she said she wanted a baby a long time ago. Kai's mother blushed. What the hell is going on? Kai Mo nodded, raised a finger very seriously, and explained, Kai's mother covered her head and said helplessly, I should have told you not to read those romance novels. Kai's father, her face was as black as a piece of charcoal. What did my daughter say? Since I knew you were going to help Momo catch tiger, as a mother, I have to give my daughter some advice. In order to let Momo prepare a little, I showed her a love story on Jihu. She probably memoized the plot. She also summarized a rule, women with children always win in the end. That's what she said. Kai's father, although the company is busy, I occasionally go to social events, but I have never done anything out of line, nor have I ignored you. Why do you want to read that stuff? Kai's mother felt a little aggrieved. It's just because the marriage is so happy, so when I read some stories with dramatic plots, I feel that this happiness is hard-won. Father Kai pondered for a moment and nodded. It's still necessary to watch it, share it with me later. Li Yang? After a while, Father Kai said again, she won't learn it. Don't worry, there is no such plot. Father Kai nodded. Download an anti-fraud center for her mobile phone to prevent her from learning it. Okay. Kai Mo's little head was full of doubts. Nothing, this kind of thing can only be taught by DI. Li Yang, your parents can't teach you. She nodded, showing her understanding. Li Yang? Chapter 10 Room. What the hell is going on here? Li Yang muttered quietly while soaking in the luxurious massage bathtub. He raised his head and was surrounded by the water of suitable temperature, relaxing all over. It's rare to see such a ridiculous rich person. Li Yang looked at the big-name underwear, pajamas, short-sleeved shirts, shorts, toothbrushes, toothpaste, shower gel, and shampoo that had been prepared by the bathtub. I thought that one day in the future, I would be treated like a new son-in-law at Chen Yu's house. It's over with Chen Yu. Kaimo, very cute. But I can't be a beast, Uncle Kai has deprived me of the possibility of being a beast. When I was a child, I was too timid. Although I saved her life, I didn't have any contact with her afterwards. If we could have become friends at that time, she wouldn't be so attached to me now. And these uncles and aunts not only gave the dean the opportunity to achieve his career, but also invested huge resources for all the children in that batch. Found her parents. Then it is my responsibility and reward to lead her out of the haze. The matter of Kaimo will not affect the current development of the situation. The setup has come to an end. The only pity is that I found that Chen Yu could not respond to my expectations. I can no longer convince myself to pursue her. Although it is despicable to use this kind of thing to test her, it also avoids wasting time on each other. I will sincerely apologize at that time. TMD, the point now is, I will sleep in the same bed with a girl of the same age at night. Li Yang messed up his wet hair. That's my sister, dear. Kaimo is my sister, a family member like a mother. He gave himself 20 sets of psychological hints. He is only 20 years old, at the age of vigor and blood, and he will raise the flag from time to time. For example, now. He recited another set of Diamond Sutra and regained his sanity. It is not good to stay in someone else's house like this, and it is so late. Obviously, they are all waiting for him. So he quickly washed and rubbed his hair, dried his hair, put on the prepared clothes, and walked out of the bathroom. Kai's mother brought a glass of milk. Kaimo also held a half cup and looked at him secretly. He probably wanted to drink with him. Maybe because he drank half a cup because he was greedy, his lips were white. Li Yang clinked his glasses with her generously. Billy, cheers. Kaimo was very happy, his eyes curved. Kai's mother walked behind Li Yang, turned up and pinned his shirt collar for him, looked at Kaimo and told him, Momo, when your man goes out in the future, you have to take care of his appearance. Your man is so handsome, many people will be jealous of him, and sometimes people outside will use inexplicable etiquette to embarrass him and laugh at him. So you have to pay attention to such small things. Kaimo nodded as if he understood. Li Yang's old face turned red and he coughed a few times. Auntie. I will treat Momo like my own sister. Mother Kai looked at Father Kai, put her hands on her hips, and frowned. Didn't you say you have succeeded? Are you stupid, woman? I told you that you succeeded, so don't ask in person. Oh, so you are shy? She winked at Li Yang. Li Yang? With a feeling of trepidation, shyness, embarrassment, and hesitation. Finally, led by Mother Kai, he entered a room full of girlishness. Bedrooms are usually not very big. Kaimo's room is very neatly decorated and warm. Although there is no doll as imagined, Li Yang saw a pillow made with his own prototype at the door. There is a dressing table, a desk, and a projector in the corner. It looks very valuable. The life of the rich. A 2-meter wide bed is placed against the wall, and it looks quite new. Red silk sheets, red sujo embroidery quilt. This. Kai's mother was a little embarrassed. This is what Kaimo asked after reading the novel. We are not so eager to get married. Oh. Li Yang really didn't know what to say. Kai's mother rubbed Kaimo's head lovingly. Go brush your teeth, and then you can go to bed. Kaimo blinked. You can brush your teeth by yourself, right? Men hate girls who can't take care of themselves the most. Kai's mother got the trick, and Kaimo quickly ran to the bathroom in the bedroom and started brushing his teeth. After closing the door for Kaimo, she waved to say something to Li Yang. Xiao Li, I'm sorry for you. Your uncle just likes to joke around. Don't mind it. It's okay. If my uncle was so humorous, I would be more embarrassed. But the current situation is actually embarrassing enough. Kai's mother sighed. If there is a way, we won't do this. Kaimo is already 20 years old. Just like your uncle said, she is trapped in her own world at her best age. It's too sad. If we hadn't reached the point of being at our wits' end, we wouldn't do something that can be called absurd. You're too kind, auntie. It was all an accident, and Kaimo's sister is so cute. I will treat her as my own sister. Yeah, she nodded, very sincerely, staring into Li Yang's eyes. I think you have a general understanding of Kai Mo's current situation. Although she has some problems, she has a good temper. It seems that what I said is not very convincing, but please try to get in touch with her. If it doesn't work, our family will not force it. Kai Mo is the baby of my heart. I just ask you, try not to hurt her, that's all. You are also a good child, and Auntie has also understood you. In the future, treat this place as your own home. Your uncle and I both like you very much. If Kai Mo gets better in the future and you have feelings, your uncle and auntie will not object. If not, I hope to get your parents' consent in the future to recognize a godparent. What Li Yang saw was the helplessness and entanglement of a mother. This moved him very much. Parents all over the world are pitiful. His Adam's apple moved up and down, and he made a promise, Auntie, don't worry. Believe that I will definitely bring her out. Good child. Mother Kai was very relieved. At this time, the bathroom door opened. Kai Mo kicked off his fluffy slippers and walked out of the bathroom in small steps. He touched the toothpaste foam at the corner of his mouth and turned back to the bathroom. Kai's mother smiled warmly, silly girl. Aha! She walked out of the bathroom, as if she wanted to explain something to Li Yang. She said she would brush her teeth by herself, but she forgot to wipe her mouth just now because she was anxious to see you. Li Yang gave a thumbs up, that's amazing. Kai Mo touched his head embarrassedly. She said it wasn't that good. Li Yang? Chapter 11 Refreshing Wake Up. Okay, I should go to bed too. Tomorrow is Saturday, you shouldn't go to school, don't get up too early. We'll be family in the future, so this won't work. I can't get up either. Li Yang thought to himself, but still nodded, Auntie, I'm not polite. Kai Mo was already impatient, pushed Kai's mother out of the room, and raised his foot to close the door. Ath! Looking at Li Yang, who was stunned, she showed two canine teeth and hugged his waist. Li Yang stared at the big and soft bed. It was already 3 o'clock. He couldn't hold on any longer and was sleepy. Subconsciously, he patted her back and advised, go to bed. She let go of her hand, took out a furry thing from the bedside table and handed it to Li Yang. He took it and carefully identified it, ear pick. You want to pick your ears? She nodded, sat on the bed and patted it. Li Yang climbed onto the bed. What should I do? Li Yang resigned himself to letting her fiddle with it for a long time, and finally gave Kai Mo a knee pillow to pick her ears. ZZZZZ. Before she started to pick, Kai Mo fell asleep. Li Yang breathed a sigh of relief, covered her with a quilt, and lay down cross-legged. She was really sleepy. The bed was big and comfortable, and she fell asleep soon. When he woke up, he felt a wet spot on his neck, and he wiped it casually. What the hell? When he opened his eyes, the room was very dark, with only a little light seeping from the edge of the curtains. Looking around and observing the layout of the room, he found that it was a strange room. Slowly waking up, the memories of last night gradually came to his mind. He began to doubt. Was it really not a dream last night? At this time, a warm breath blew into his ears, and Li Yang couldn't help but tremble all over. He was stiff all over, and slowly turned his face to face the girl's innocent sleeping face. Li Yang? Now, one of his hands was now under Kai Mo's neck, and it was completely numb. Kai Mo also reciprocated by putting her smooth legs on Li Yang, her little hands on his chest, and occasionally scratching it restlessly. So the nightgown was completely useless, and the shorts with the bare pattern were completely exposed to Li Yang's eyes. I have never slept in the same bed with a person of the opposite sex who is not related to me. The psychological suggestion from last night worked. The thought, this is my sister, she is like my mother, played automatically in my mind, suppressing the power of the wild. Li Yang put down her nightgown that had been lifted to her belly and covered her with a quilt. Kai Mo was about to wake up. She smacked her lips a few times, as if she was hungry. She opened her mouth and sucked Li Yang's earlobe. He trembled again, and another spell played automatically in his mind. While he felt that the psychological suggestion from yesterday was really useful, he tilted his head to save his wet ears, but Kai Mo was not willing to give up even in his sleep, and sucked Li Yang's neck again. Li Yang's psychological defense was completely defeated, and the intermittent vibration mode was turned on. It took more than 10 seconds. Bargy. Kai Mo let go of his mouth contentedly and continued to sleep soundly with a contented expression. It turned out that there was saliva on the neck. He looked ashen. After drinking late at night, he was walking alone. Sure enough, something bad would happen. The curtains had a good sunshade effect. The room was still dark. He stretched his neck and looked at the rabbit alarm clock on the bedside table. The time was 11 o'clock in the morning. This bed is quite comfortable. Or should I sleep a little longer? ZZZZZZ. Just like that. I don't know how long it took. The door was gently pushed open. The room suddenly became brighter. Momo, it's time to get up. Liang opened his eyes and wanted to get out of bed at the first time. After thinking about it, he felt that it was too deliberate. He thought it was better to pretend to sleep. Kaimo was also full of sleep. He rubbed his eyes and smiled at the visitor. He was satisfied and closed his eyes and stretched out his hands to Kai's mother at the door. R. Kaimo waited for a while before opening his eyes, very dissatisfied. But he saw his mother pointing in her direction. Kaimo's face was full of doubts. Suddenly, she realized something and turned her head. She happened to meet the eyes of Li Yang, who was extremely embarrassed. She frowned, rubbed her eyes, and stretched out her hand to pinch his chin, as if she wanted to take off the mask. Finally, she remembered that this was the real thing she caught. A feeling of surprise appeared on her face. Kaimo didn't think much about it. She turned over and hugged Li Yang, lying on his chest and rubbing. Li Yang's cheek twitched slightly. Auntie, she didn't wear underwear. In the bathroom, looking in the mirror, looking at the strawberries planted on her neck, and buttoning the top button of her shirt. Oh. Why did I enter the room in a daze last night? He reviewed it. It was probably because he was too tired, drank a little, and was stimulated by Chen Yu, so he was emotionally fragile. Finally, he was hit by the affectionate offensive of Uncle Kai and Aunt Kai. Fortunately, I slept late and nothing happened. Xiao Li, it's time for dinner. Here I am. Li Yang walked out of the bathroom with heavy steps. Sitting at the dining table, it was already 1 o'clock in the afternoon. She asked him to sit down, and Kai's mother sat opposite and served Li Yang food as if nothing had happened, which made him very embarrassed. Eat more. Thank you, Auntie. My dear, there is more to this chapter. Please click on the next page to continue reading, the latter is more exciting. Kaimo used chopsticks to pick up a chopstick of twice-cooked pork for her and smiled sweetly. Hey Tilder. Li Yang also smiled. He had already understood Kaimo's dependence on him. As for the uncle and aunt asking Li Yang to take care of her, he didn't intend to cheat, so he picked up the public chopsticks to pick up food for her. Kai's mother held her chin and smiled at Li Yang. The smile was very gentle, and the maternal radiance was even more dazzling than the sun outside. It completely eliminated Li Yang's feeling of discomfort. Uncle went to work. No, he went to your house for dinner, and we will go there later. Ahem. Li Yang picked up the water cup and sipped it. His face suddenly turned red. Auntie, can you not tell my parents about what happened between me and Kaimo last night? Kai's mother nodded. Okay, I didn't expect you to be afraid of your parents at such an age, so cute. Li Yang? Is this something you are afraid of? There are some home-cooked dishes on the table, but they only look like them. After tasting a few bites, you will understand that the ingredients and cooking methods are not home-cooked at all. Even though Li Yang was in a bad mood, his appetite was not reduced. After eating 2 bowls, he felt embarrassed to add more rice. Kai's mother gave way, and seeing that Li Yang was stubborn, she just smiled and didn't force him. There is a long way to go. Kaimo was still eating, so the two chatted about home-cooked things at the table. For the first time, Kaimo, who was ignored, felt that his gentle mother was a little annoying, and he glanced at Li Yang from time to time. Li Yang also noticed Kaimo's eyes, thinking that she was short-handed and couldn't pick up the food, so he asked, "What do you want to eat?" She pointed at the shrimp on the table, stretched out her pink tongue, and licked her lips. Li Yang put down his chopsticks, wiped his hands with a towel, and skillfully peeled the shrimp for her, and put it in the vinegar dish in front of her. While doing a job that paid 3,000 a month, he continued to talk to Kai's mother. Auntie, I was a little confused yesterday, so I stupidly went into Kaimo's sister's room. It was really outrageous. In the future, I will find a way to let her sleep alone. Kaimo puffed up his cheeks and pouted his lips at him. Kai's mother maintained the posture of supporting her cheeks with both hands. The young woman who was very talkative just now shook her head at this time. No. Chapter 12 Entering the Door Part 1. Kai-mo nodded with satisfaction, picked up 3 shrimps, and stuffed her little mouth full. Kai's mother explained, "Your uncle and I will take her with us when we work. Momo has always slept with us. If no one sleeps with her, she will make a fuss." Li Yang was a little bit dramatic and tried to say, "Either uncle and aunt are busy with work, continue to take her. When they are not busy, I will take her to school during the day and send her back to you at night." Kai's mother sighed, "Alas, mainly your uncle and I also want some time alone. And Kai-mo obviously prefers to sleep with you. She is very irritable when she wakes up. She used to cry when she woke up, but today is the first time she is so well behaved." Seeing that Kai-mo was a little dissatisfied, she quickly added, "Momo is great today." Kai-mo scratched his face shyly. Li Yang had to give in, or prepare 2 beds in the room. "I'll coax her to sleep and then sleep on the other bed." Kai-mo secretly looked at Li Yang, his eyes rolling around. Kai's mother knew her daughter and must be thinking of ways to achieve her goal. Sure enough, a tiger mother has no dog daughter. She was very pleased and nodded, "Okay." Li Yang breathed a sigh of relief. The bodyguard's monthly salary of 200,000 is not unfair at all. Not only does he have to provide daily security, but he also has to be a part-time driver. Even the meal he just cooked was made by him. Har har har, Xiao Li, you are honest and always like to tell the truth. Even if he was wearing sunglasses, from his nasolabial lines, he knew how much he enjoyed Li Yang's flattery just now. "When the young lady was a child, besides her family, I was the one she was most attached to." As he said that, his good mood came to an abrupt end. Even Kai's mother pulled the corners of her mouth, and the atmosphere became awkward in an instant. The bodyguard captain said guiltily, "I went back to my hometown to attend a funeral. There were not so many bodyguards at that time. I thought it was nothing." Kai-mo reached out and gently patted his shoulder, revealing a sweet smile. The bodyguard captain saw Kai-mo's cute appearance through the rearview mirror inside the car, and immediately melted. "Miss, don't worry, I will always be your most loyal dog." Kai's mother was obviously a little upset. "No need. Just learned from the conversation that the bodyguard captain and Kai's father knew each other when they were humble, and they were as close as brothers and trusted each other deeply." Li Yang liked the atmosphere of the Kai family very much, and liked the feeling that they did not regard themselves as outsiders. The vehicle traveled on the road, heading towards the suburbs, and finally stopped at the entrance of an alley. Kai-mo came to a strange place and began to feel uneasy. He pulled Li Yang's sleeve and looked at Kai's mother timidly. "This is Xiao Li's home." She blinked and looked at Li Yang. After getting confirmation, she held Li Yang and jumped to pull him forward. Entering the alley, people greeted him from time to time. Kai-mo started to get nervous again and hid behind Li Yang. He even trembled when he saw a man. Under the shade of the tree, a dry old man was lying on a bamboo chair to enjoy the cool. "Xiao Li, are you on vacation?" "Grandpa Zhang, it's vacation, go home and play." He saw the girl Li Yang was holding, and was happy. "You brought your girlfriend home. Oh, your mother-in-law is here too." The old man sat up, put down his lifted sweatshirt, and looked at the graceful Kai mother. "Xiao Li is a good kid. His parents are also well known in the alley and are easy to get along with. His father is a civil servant." "Li Yang?" Kai's mother smiled and nodded. "Hey, today we have an appointment for the 2 adults to meet." "Oh, then hurry up, Xiao Li, bring your girlfriend to play at home later." "Li Yang?" Kai-mo picked up the phone, typed a few words, and handed it to Kai's mother. "Not a girlfriend, but a wife." "Li Yang?" Kai's mother was relieved. "My daughter knows a lot." "Ahem, godmother," Kai-mo's sister probably misunderstood. Kai-mo was very dissatisfied and picked up the phone to call mother-in-law. "Li Yang?" Kai's mother frowned, deleted these words and replaced them with mother-in-law. "Li Yang? What about my husband's parents? Father-in-law and mother-in-law?" R. She tried to speak, and suddenly looked frustrated. Li Yang felt a little distressed. "It doesn't matter, you are so beautiful, no matter who your future father-in-law and mother-in-law are, they will like you." Kai-mo domineeringly grabbed Li Yang's hand that had secretly broken free. Typed with the other hand and showed it to Li Yang angrily. "Father-in-law and mother-in-law are no one else." "Li Yang?" "At WeChat." Li Yang just remembered his mobile phone and touched his pocket. "Auntie, it seems that my mobile phone fell at your house. The bodyguard captain appeared out of nowhere and handed over the mobile phone. It's fully charged for you. Li Yang restarted the phone, unlocked the screen, and scanned the code to add a friend. The mobile phone was belatedly buzzing. Kai Mo was like a curious little deer, and was about to stick his head out, but was stopped by Kai's mother. You can't look at it. If you trust your man, don't look at it. Kai Mo. She let go of Li Yang, held her mother's hand, covered her eyes, and looked like, don't show me. First, I saw the message of fish on the top. There was only one, good night. Li Yang casually cancelled the pinning and replied, sorry, the phone is out of power, and I slept until now, so I couldn't reply in time. There was also an 8 in the dormitory group. Li Yang replied, your father just woke up. Then came a message from her mother, where is your Uncle Kai's daughter? Bring her here quickly. Li Yang was too lazy to reply. Finally, there were 3 or 4 short video business collaborations. Apologize uniformly, and then politely reply according to whether the price is appropriate, or arrange another time to discuss the details. After replying to the message, it was home. The bodyguard captain suddenly appeared again and handed over 3 bags of gifts. One bag was a long and beautiful box with a silk scarf inside. The other 2 were 2 cans of tea. There were also 3 boxes of handmade cakes. All were packed in transparent polyethylene plastic bags, and the contents could be seen at a glance. You can feel the intention, and there is no pressure to put it away. Kai's mother was so experienced that she adjusted her expression in an instant, maintaining a delicate balance between politeness and closeness, and integrating into the situation in advance. And Kai Mo, who had almost no social experience, became inexplicably nervous, and his movements were stiff when he stepped into the courtyard gate. Li Yang's pressure suddenly increased, and he shouted, Mom, I'm back. A short-haired woman came out. With Kai's father leading the way, she naturally knew that there was a guest. Li Yang's mouth twitched slightly. She had her hair done and went to the beauty salon to put on makeup. What's going on? This must be Mr. Kai's wife. Sister-in-law, these were bought before I came. They are a bit casual. There are also some cakes that I made myself. Mother Li quickly took over, you are so polite. Please come in. She looked at Kai Mo, whose face was flushed by the sun. Kai Mo wore a little white dress today, which made her skin look even whiter. Although she was not familiar with the world, the family's demeanor was here, and the 2 points of nobility added to her brilliance. Her little face was tense because of nervousness. After receiving the sight of Mother Li, she immediately showed a shy and stiff smile. Li Yang found that her mother's mouth was wide enough to hold a watermelon. This girl is so pretty. Chapter 13 Entering the Door, Part 2. Kai Mo opened his mouth and closed it again, anxious and nervous, tears almost falling for a moment. Mother Li was so distressed. Daughter, you know everything. Come in, I heard you call me auntie, right? Feeling the motherly tenderness, she stopped crying. But she shook her head firmly, took out her mobile phone and typed a few words. Mother-in-law. Li Yang? Jiangluan. Mother Li. Go in first. Li Yang reminded. Entering the living room, Kai Wanli and Lao Li were watching the anti-Japanese drama and eating watermelon with an electric fan. Lao Li hurriedly got up to greet them. Tea, peanuts, melon seeds, pistachios, melons, pears and peaches were all served. Where's my sister? She's in class. The school is making up for the National Day holiday. How miserable. Mother Li waved her hand. Look how hot this girl is. Son, go to the room and turn on the air conditioner and cool down. Li Yang was also happy to be free. Kai Mo stood up, bowed, and followed Li Yang into the room. Closed the door. Mother Li came over and opened the door a little. Why close it so tightly? Li Yang? This is the difference in social experience. Old Li handed over the paper cup. Sister-in-law, our 2 families already know each other. Old Kai just told me about this and we agreed. If my son does anything out of line, you can just call the police and arrest him. We will all recognize it. Jiangluan said shamelessly, you can't say that. It's our family that has made things difficult for Xiao Li. Sister, if it weren't for your help, we don't know when we can find our son. It's all right. Kai Wanli handed a cigarette to old Li and lit it. If it weren't for Xiao Li, my daughter would have died. How can it be counted like this? And your family is the easiest to find among the children in the welfare home. It's only 100 kilometers away, so it didn't take much effort. Old Li laughed. To be honest, I think it was God who sent my son to save people. I've been to that village several times, but I couldn't ask. You talk about dialectical materialism every day, and now you're talking about God again. Organizational matters belong to the organization, and casual chats belong to casual chats. Li Yang was a little absent-minded. Parents made it sound so simple, but Li Yang knew how much they cared about him and how much they had to answer questions of conscience for his case. Father was a middle-level cadre in the public security department. He was upright and incorruptible. However, he was retaliated by a criminal group that trafficked in human beings. Li Yang was abducted in his cradle. The traffickers were arrested and refused to reveal Li Yang's whereabouts because they knew they would be shot. Father could have taken over the case, but he chose to avoid it for the sake of rules. For 8 years, he never used even a trace of public resources to find him. Even if his friends in the unit wanted to help, he refused sternly. However, as long as he finished the case, he would ride a bicycle for dozens of kilometers to find clues to Li Yang's disappearance. The evidence locked Li Yang in the suburbs around the Magic City. Maybe it was fate. Li Yang felt that he might have passed by his father several times. When registering for household registration, the window staff used the wrong photo, and when registering for school, he didn't notice it. When they went to the welfare home to look for Li Yang, he had a fever. The volunteers didn't know, they just said they were all there. When Li Yang was sent home, everything became clear. His father burst into tears. He had never given in to criminals, so he knelt down in front of Li Yang. He said he was sorry and told Li Yang all his actions that seemed unkind to outsiders. He said it was okay for Li Yang to not recognize him as his father, and he could accept it if he never entered the house. Little Li Yang was shocked, and the older he got, the more proud he was of his father. When his father heard about Li Yang's heroic deeds at such a young age, he was also very proud, but he was also sad for the loss of his childhood. When Li Yang was found, his sister had just been born. This is how a family goes from bad to good and is happy. I'm not bragging. Li Yang is a good kid in every way, but there's something a little weird about him. Can my wife tell me? Mother Li was happy. What can't I tell you? Once, old Li bought a roast duck, and I saw that a thigh was missing, so I asked my son if he had eaten it secretly. Li Yang stiffened his neck at that time and said no. I told him to tell the truth. If he had eaten, he had eaten. If he hadn't eaten, he hadn't eaten. He asked me if I didn't believe him. I said I didn't disbelieve him, but there was no one else at home. A duck leg is fine. Mom is not blaming you. If you didn't eat it, you didn't eat it. Maybe it was taken away by a wild cat. We were talking, but Li Yang got angry. He ran away with the box of roast duck without eating, and didn't go to school. He came back in the evening, and he really caught a wild cat and a duck bone. At this point I knew I had wronged him, but he was not happy. He had to ask Lao Li's colleagues from the laboratory to come over. He didn't cry or make a fuss, and no one could persuade him. He had to stand all night and must piece the bones together. He also had to test the saliva on it to prove his innocence. Lao Li was exhausted and had to invite him to dinner. He also paid a lot of money out of his own pocket for the test. As a result, it really belonged to that cat. I don't know how he found it or how he caught it. After that, whenever Lao Li's colleagues came to his house for dinner, they would praise him, saying that Lao Li is a good son and that Li Yang would definitely be a good person in the future. Because of this incident, he was angry for half a year. His temper is also quite funny. He is filial and filial, but he didn't call me mom for half a year, which was a punishment for me. I didn't think much of it at that time, I just thought this child was cute. She wiped her red eyes. Later I learned how much bullying a child without a father or a mother would suffer in school. Those 6 or 7-year-old children are ignorant, and they like to blame them for what they did wrong. The teachers are also too troublesome, and usually give them 3 sticks to let it go. And Li Yang always stands up for his brothers and sisters in the welfare home. Because of this, they are severely excluded in school. Old Li's hand holding the cigarette trembled slightly. The director and taught Li Yang and those children very well, but it's a pity that good people don't live long. Kai Wanli was also surprised, however. She didn't know there was such a thing, and hurriedly said, "Don't worry, brother and sister-in-law, Li Yang is with our daughter, we will never let him suffer this." Li's mother waved her hand quickly. "We don't mean that, after all, this daughter is a bit special." I like her very much, but it's hard to say what will happen in the future. Jiang Luan smiled. Our family is sorry for Li Yang, it's not easy to find a partner like this, so we give you a reassurance. Anyway, we are happy, but it's wrong Li Yang, my daughter. No one in my family cares about this, as long as both parties like it. Jiang Luan bit the watermelon in small bites, and suddenly remembered something. Oh no, I was so busy that I forgot to ask, does Xiao Li have a partner? Chapter 14, Seal. Kai Wanli was embarrassed and rubbed his brows fiercely. I really forgot to ask. Li Yang's parents also looked confused. Li's mother scratched her face and suddenly thought of something. He doesn't let us ask about this kind of thing. It seems, yes, right. When Li Yang was video chatting with his grandmother a few days ago, I vaguely heard him say that he was about to fall in love. I don't know if he was comforting his mother-in-law or was serious. Kai Wanli's cheeks obviously began to twitch, and Jiang Luan's smile froze. If he had a girlfriend, it would be inappropriate to let Li Yang take care of his daughter. Even if he had to pay for her, he couldn't ruin his daughter's reputation. So, Li Yang was called over. Kai Mo was playing Tetris on a 10 yuan game console, still following closely. With the accompaniment of ding ding, Li Yang once again faced the scene of social death. He just mentioned his pursuit of Chen Yu, and finally said hesitantly, she thinks I am lying to her and doesn't want to talk to me anymore. I also think it's not suitable, so forget it. Then he focused on making a microfilm together, trying to change the subject. Seeing that all four people were very interested, Li Yang felt that he had succeeded. Jiang Luan's expression became more and more strange. He held up his phone, pointed at the heroine and asked, this, can't it be? Jiang Luan handed the phone to Kai Wanli. Take a look, is this the daughter of the Chen Bureau? Kai Wanli took the phone, glanced at it, and his eyelids twitched. This is too coincidental. Jiang Luan flipped through the photo album on her phone. I remember we took photos together when we went on a picnic last year. She kept switching screens, her expression becoming increasingly strange. Li Yang hesitated and asked, what's wrong? Kai Wanli looked at him and asked, how many girls did you save when you were 8 years old? No way, it can't be such a coincidence. Old Li also understood, is it one of your 5 families? Yeah, Kai Wanli nodded. Chen Kang, remember? We got together once that year, and he was the one you could talk to the most. Old Li couldn't hold it in any longer. He is my direct supervisor now. He came to our company for inspection several times this year and invited me to drink a few times. I was drunk at the time, but I remember talking about children. He mentioned it to me several times. He has a daughter. I was a little surprised at first. How could I not know that his daughter was saved by my son? Mother Li tugged at his sleeve, then looked at Li Yang with the eyes of a scumbag. Li Yang? A cold light flashed in Kai Wanli's tiger eyes, and his businessman's mind began to work. He seriously considered whether he could stab him in the back and report his lifestyle problems. Even the title has been thought of. A director actually had barbecue with a wealthy businessman, how corrupt. Seeing that the atmosphere was getting weirder, Li Yang quickly stopped talking. She rejected me directly, and I have no plans to fall in love for the time being. The woman had no time to feel at ease, and the man had no time to breathe a sigh of relief. A ringtone suddenly rang. I found a penny on the side of the road, tilde. It's the voice of WeChat call. Li Yang picked up the phone, and the 4 adults raised their buttocks slightly and tilted their heads to peek. WeChat name, Fish. Father Li coughed a few times and asked, who is it? Li Yang just felt itchy all over, hesitating. It's that, friend. Kai Wanli's brain was spinning rapidly, and he immediately got the confirmation. He narrowed his eyes and said, I remember Chen Kang's daughter's nickname was Yu. Yeah. Li Yang nodded with difficulty. Har, uncle and aunt, I'm going to answer the phone first. Jiang Luan fiddled with her exquisite nails. Let's go. Kai Mo felt that she could never be the gentle and generous woman her mother described. She put down the game console and looked at Li Yang with resentment in her watery eyes. He understood the look in her eyes in an instant. Although I really want to know, it doesn't matter if you don't tell me. I will live my life bravely with tears. Li Yang stood up from the sofa with difficulty. Son, answer it. To reassure everyone, Li Yang pressed the answer button as if nothing had happened, and left the inexplicable sure afield with an unhurried pace and in a manner that could be described as elegant. But WeChat calls are made externally at the first moment. A sweet and aggrieved voice sounded, with a hint of tears in it. Xiao Huahua, I'm sorry. Li Yang. Everyone. Last night. Yi Wan still spent the night at Chen Yu's house. The two of them slept with their feet touching. However, she tossed and turned all night and couldn't sleep because she didn't get a reply from Li Yang. After getting up, I even cancelled my planned visit to the agency. After a night of thinking and discovering the formatted smear campaign on the forum, she finally realized that she had really wronged Li Yang. Yi Wan couldn't bear it in the end, so she told her about the handwritten script and that Li Yang had other plans, and asked Chen Yu not to question Lin Qingxuan. This is enough evidence. Chen Yu's guilt towards Li Yang suddenly erupted. Recalling their last conversation, both of them spoke in a resolute tone. After being together for so long, she naturally knew Li Yang's temper. Gentle, always thinking of herself, never overstepping the boundaries, rigidly cute. Even holding hands is initiated by her own various hints. Of course she didn't know that Li Yang had slept in the same bed with a girl he just met last night. But Chen Yu knew that Li Yang still had something to ask for. What he was looking for was a spiritual intimacy, where one look could read each other's mood, an unintentional eye contact, understanding each other's intentions, and something he had said countless times, but Chen Yu had heard and forgotten, and only remembered it at the end. Trust. Chen Yu then realized with horror that maybe she had lost the boy who once had eyes only for her. Until I received a polite yet distant reply, sorry, my phone is out of battery, I have been sleeping till now, and I have not been able to reply in time. Her only remaining hope was shattered, and she couldn't help but burst into tears, scaring her family and Yi Wan. She began to send Li Yang messages of apology, even begging in a humble tone that she had never done before. But he, who used to reply immediately and put her in the most important position, was no longer interested in opening the chat window. All the messages were marked as unread. In fact, Li Yang was teaching Kai Mo how to play games at that time, and his phone was casually placed under the pillow, so he didn't hear it. When I went out, I just put it in my pocket without looking at it. So she made a WeChat call. Li family. Kai Mo picked up her phone and sent a WeChat message to her military advisor and mother. Can't Momo go to listen? He will hate Momo. But Momo feels itchy in her heart, so uncomfortable. Jiang Luan glanced up and replied, baby, what I just said was for your man, not for you. This is part of the plan. Mom, what do you mean? I don't understand. It means that you need to collect intelligence while trying not to be discovered by the target. Xiao Huohuo will definitely find out, but Mom, I really want to cry. I feel like Xiao Huohuo is about to leave me. Love is like war. Now your gates are on fire. It's too late for your mother to teach you. Don't worry about whether you find out or not. When you are about to lose your man, watch your phone if you can. Listen to the phone if you can. Hurry up and go. Li Yang's parents stared in amazement at the mother and daughter's typing speed, which was comparable to that of making hand seals. Kai Wanli was calm and composed, but his eyes never left Li Yang. He took a sip of tea and said, har har, the weather is really nice. Yer. Chapter 15 Winning. Can you forgive me? Chen Yu's voice was filled with tears. Li Yang walked to the flower bed and picked a fragrant gardenia. No emotion could be heard from his voice. Well, I forgive you. Chen Yu was even more worried. Will we still be the same as before? Li Yang thought for a moment and said, we will still be friends. The temperature was above 30 degrees, but Chen Yu only felt his hands and feet were cold, and his voice was trembling more and more. I want to see you now, can we meet and talk? I'm at home. We have guests here right now. He looked back and saw Kai Mo. She was holding up her white skirt. She was only one step away from Li Yang, leaning sideways to eavesdrop. After being discovered by him, Kai Mo became panicked and lost his balance. Li Yang quickly supported him, be careful. Chen Yu was puzzled, huh? I'm sorry I didn't talk to you just now. The tone was neither distant nor intimate, but Chen Yu felt increasingly flustered. Are you free tomorrow? I'll ask you out. I don't know if I'll be free tomorrow. Li Yang released his hand from Kai Mo's waist and asked, did Wan say anything to you? No, were there people around you just now? Who was it? Chen Yu changed the subject. She didn't want Li Yang to think that he believed in his innocence only because Wan reminded him. In fact, she had already thought it through before, and she was vague in her words because she didn't want Li Yang to feel more resentful. Li Yang replied bluntly, the guest's daughter. Chen Yu's tone paused, thousands of possibilities flashed through his mind, and then he shook his head. It must be a naughty little girl. The little girl is very naughty. You can take her out to play. There is a children's playground in Yintai near the school. Li Yang thought about it and decided that going out for a walk might be helpful to Kai Mo. It's not very convenient to meet Chen Yu and be with Kai Mo. Some things can only be said one-on-one. Hello. Chen Yu tried his best to keep his tone calm. Li Yang just came back to his senses. She is too old to go to the children's park. Chen Yu's expression froze, and he said in a joking tone, you are not on a blind date, are you? Li Yang heard some meaning from her tone. Since he wanted to be friends with Chen Yu, he might as well talk it out. To put it bluntly, I don't plan to date you, and our relationship will only be limited to being friends. This is too straightforward, and it also makes me seem overly self-conscious. There's no harm in hinting at it. Li Yang was not stupid. He saw that what Kai's father and mother meant was similar to a blind date. Besides, he would have to take Kai Mo to school in the future, so it was better to tell them in advance. It's similar to a blind date. Her family hired me to be a nanny for their daughter. I'll introduce me to you later. Chen Yu, what do you mean? She said she wanted me to go to school with her. You promised. Li Yang thought for a while and said, well, I agreed. There are some reasons for this. I think it's a good deed for a good person. You can't sacrifice yourself when doing good things. Chen Yu was anxious. Is it because I hurt you that you just found someone to marry into? You can't treat yourself so casually. No, the situation is more complicated. This is related to my friend's privacy. I promised to take care of him, but nothing else. Li Yang now knew that Chen Yu was also a girl he had saved, just like Kai Mo, so he added, you might know her too. Chen Yu said anxiously, I'm going to your house now, please send me the address. It's really not convenient, Chen Yu. If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do. When Chen Yu heard this, tears were about to fall again. She forced herself to say, I'm sorry, I lost my temper. In the future, introduce her to me. I'm hanging up now. Seeing her daughter cry again after hanging up the phone, Chen's mother frowned and wiped her tears with her fingertips. Is it the boy who pursued you before? Did he bully you? We don't want such a scumbag. There are so many people on the internet who like our Yu. Many of my friends have come to ask about her. Let's find a better one. Chen Yu cried out, wow, wiped her tears, and stammered, there is no one better than him. He didn't bully me, I was the one who bullied him. Chen's mother took her daughter into her arms to comfort her, then looked at Yuan, who could only shake her head. On the other side, Chen Kang just glanced at it, adjusted his reading glasses, and then concentrated on reading the file and picked up the pen to make comments. After hanging up the phone, Li Yang glanced at WeChat and saw a message from someone in the dormitory group. Zhang Zheng, your work has become a hot topic. A screenshot of Weibo. The third most popular. School students shoot microfilms and win international awards. The Shanghai University microfilm, A Bowl of Noodles, has been officially shortlisted for the Golden Flower Award for Best Social Work Film. According to industry insiders, the chances of winning the award are extremely high. The word, oh, was restored. Li Yang was holding the gardenia in his hand and was in a very good mood. He picked another one and gave it to Kai Mo, saying happily, this flower looks like you. Kai Mo, who was originally in an inexplicably heavy mood, became happy immediately after receiving the gift. Kai Mo did not reach out to take it, but lifted her hair, revealing her swan-like neck, and tilted her head to signal Li Yang to put it on her. Li Yang helped her tuck it behind her ears without touching her, as much as possible. But his fingers still inadvertently stroked her cheek and neck. Kai Mo's face suddenly turned red. She couldn't understand this emotion, even though they had slept in the same bed last night. Kai Mo just hugged Li Yang's hand, raised his head and smiled sweetly. The sun was bright and a little dazzling, causing Li Yang to lose consciousness for a moment. In the room, Jiangluan's slightly gloomy face was immediately replaced by a look of pride. My daughter is extremely talented. Father Kai felt sad and started thinking about how he would cry on the wedding day. After Kai Mo showed himself with a smile, he staggered away from Li Yang and rushed into his mother's arms. Li Yang put his cell phone in his pocket, turned on the faucet to wash his hands, rubbed his face and returned to the living room. I picked up a paper cup and put the gardenia in it. Old Li looked serious. Why are you laughing so foolishly? Li Yang? It is really inappropriate for his son to covet someone else's daughter in public. As a father, he has to remind him. Old Li glanced at Mr. Kai, who was looking sad. Li Yang was still confused. All right, Father Li flicked a cigarette. Come and sit down, don't smoke anyone. Uncle Kai has paid me to take care of Sister Kai Mo. She can't stand the smell of cigarettes, so I plan to quit. Li Yang was too lazy to move and continued to laugh foolishly. Jiang Guan rubbed her daughter's hot earlobe, feeling happy that she had regained the emotions that a girl of her age should have so quickly. She had not worn the mask for so many years in vain, the real one was really effective. Mother Li was at her wit's end and warned him bluntly, how can you let Uncle Kai trust you to take care of your sister Kai Mo? Mom, what are you talking about? Your smile is so obscene. He still didn't understand. Mother Li was helpless. Li Yang spread his hands and said, I laughed because the movie I made won an award. How can it be vulgar? Mother Li, har har. No, it's fine. 1/6 calculation. Chapter 15 Winning. Can you forgive me? Chen Yu's voice was filled with tears. Li Yang walked to the flower bed and picked a fragrant gardenia. No emotion could be heard from his voice. Well, I forgive you. Chen Yu was even more worried. Will we still be the same as before? Li Yang thought for a moment and said, we will still be friends. The temperature was above 30 degrees, but Chen Yu only felt his hands and feet were cold, and his voice was trembling more and more. I want to see you now, can we meet and talk? I'm at home. We have guests here right now. He looked back and saw Kai Mo. She was holding up her white skirt. She was only one step away from Li Yang, leaning sideways to eavesdrop. After being discovered by him, Kai Mo became panicked and lost his balance. Li Yang quickly supported him, be careful. Chen Yu was puzzled, huh? I'm sorry I didn't talk to you just now. The tone was neither distant nor intimate, but Chen Yu felt increasingly flustered. Are you free tomorrow? I'll ask you out. I don't know if I'll be free tomorrow. Li Yang released his hand from Kai Mo's waist and asked, did Yuan say anything to you? No, were there people around you just now? Who was it? Chen Yu changed the subject. She didn't want Li Yang to think that he believed in his innocence only because Yuan reminded him. In fact, she had already thought it through before, and she was vague in her words because she didn't want Li Yang to feel more resentful. Li Yang replied bluntly, the guest's daughter. Chen Yu's tone paused, thousands of possibilities flashed through his mind, and then he shook his head. It must be a naughty little girl. The little girl is very naughty. You can take her out to play. There is a children's playground in Yintai near the school. Li Yang thought about it and decided that going out for a walk might be helpful to Kai Mo. It's not very convenient to meet Chen Yu and be with Kai Mo. Some things can only be said one-on-one. Hello. Chen Yu tried his best to keep his tone calm. Li Yang just came back to his senses. She is too old to go to the children's park. Chen Yu's expression froze, and he said in a joking tone, you're not on a blind date, are you? Li Yang heard some meaning from her tone. Since he wanted to be friends with Chen Yu, he might as well talk it out. To put it bluntly, I don't plan to date you, and our relationship will only be limited to being friends. This is too straightforward, and it also makes me seem overly self-conscious. There's no harm in hinting at it. Li Yang was not stupid. He saw that what Kai's father and mother meant was similar to a blind date. Besides, he would have to take Kai Mo to school in the future, so it was better to tell them in advance. It's similar to a blind date. Her family hired me to be a nanny for their daughter. I'll introduce me to you later. Chen Yu, what do you mean? She said she wanted me to go to school with her. You promised. Li Yang thought for a while and said, well, I agreed. There are some reasons for this. I think it's a good deed for a good person. You can't sacrifice yourself when doing good things. Chen Yu was anxious. Is it because I heard you that you just found someone to marry into? You can't treat yourself so casually. No, the situation is more complicated. This is related to my friend's privacy. I promised to take care of him, but nothing else. Li Yang now knew that Chen Yu was also a girl he had saved, just like Kai Mo, so he added, you might know her too. Chen Yu said anxiously, I'm going to your house now, please send me the address. It's really not convenient, Chen Yu. If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do. When Chen Yu heard this, tears were about to fall again. She forced herself to say, I'm sorry, I lost my temper. In the future, introduce her to me. I'm hanging up now. Seeing her daughter cry again after hanging up the phone, Chen's mother frowned and wiped her tears with her fingertips. Is it the boy who pursued you before? Did he bully you? We don't want such a scumbag. There are so many people on the internet who like our Yu. Many of my friends have come to ask about her. Let's find a better one. Chen Yu cried out, wow, wiped her tears, and stammered, there is no one better than him. He didn't bully me, I was the one who bullied him. Chen's mother took her daughter into her arms to comfort her, then looked at Yuan, who could only shake her head. On the other side, Chen Kang just glanced at it, adjusted his reading glasses, and then concentrated on reading the file and picked up the pen to make comments. After hanging up the phone, Li Yang glanced at WeChat and saw a message from someone in the dormitory group. Zhang Zheng, your work has become a hot topic. A screenshot of Weibo. The third most popular. School students shoot microfilms and win international awards. The Shanghai University microfilm, A Bowl of Noodles, has been officially shortlisted for the Golden Flower Award for Best Social Work Film. According to industry insiders, the chances of winning the award are extremely high. The word, oh, was restored. Li Yang was holding the gardenia in his hand and was in a very good mood. He picked another one and gave it to Kaimo, saying happily, this flower looks like you. Kaimo, who was originally in an inexplicably heavy mood, became happy immediately after receiving the gift. Kaimo did not reach out to take it, but lifted her hair, revealing her swan-like neck, and tilted her head to signal Li Yang to put it on her. Li Yang helped her tuck it behind her ears without touching her, as much as possible. But his fingers still inadvertently stroked her cheek and neck. Kaimo's face suddenly turned red. She couldn't understand this emotion, even though they had slept in the same bed last night. Kaimo just hugged Li Yang's hand, raised his head and smiled sweetly. The sun was bright and a little dazzling, causing Li Yang to lose consciousness for a moment. In the room, Jiangluan's slightly gloomy face was immediately replaced by a look of pride. My daughter is extremely talented. Father Kai felt sad and started thinking about how he would cry on the wedding day. After Kaimo showed himself with a smile, he staggered away from Li Yang and rushed into his mother's arms. Li Yang put his cell phone in his pocket, turned on the faucet to wash his hands, rubbed his face and returned to the living room. I picked up a paper cup and put the gardenia in it. Old Li looked serious. Why are you laughing so foolishly? Li Yang? It is really inappropriate for his son to covet someone else's daughter in public. As a father, he has to remind him. Old Li glanced at Mr. Kai, who was looking sad. Li Yang was still confused. All right, Father Li flicked a cigarette, come and sit down, don't smoke anyone. Uncle Kai has paid me to take care of Sister Kaimo. She can't stand the smell of cigarettes, so I plan to quit. Li Yang was too lazy to move and continued to laugh foolishly. Jiangluan rubbed her daughter's hot earlobe, feeling happy that she had regained the emotions that a girl of her age should have so quickly. She had not worn the mask for so many years in vain, the real one was really effective. Mother Li was at her wit's end and warned him bluntly, how can you let Uncle Kai trust you to take care of your sister Kaimo? Mom, what are you talking about? Your smile is so obscene. He still didn't understand. Mother Li was helpless. Li Yang spread his hands and said, I laughed because the movie I made won an award. How can it be vulgar? Mother Li, har har. No, it's fine. Chapter 17. Kaimo opened his arms and stood in front of Li Yang. She was so frightened that she was trembling and could hardly stand, and she was willing to move away even with her eyes closed. No matter how angry old Li was, he calmed down. Niece, I'm not angry with you. Jiangluan held her daughter in her arms and sat down, comforting her softly. Li Yang looked directly into his father's sharp gaze and refused to back down. My sister won't be as lucky as me. She's already 12 years old and can remember things. If she's captured, I'm sure Dad knows better than me how she'll be treated. Old Li's originally resolute expression disappeared in an instant. He stood up hunched over, opened the window, turned his back to the crowd, leaned against the windowsill, lit a cigarette, and wiped his rough, dark face with his palm. Son, I was just confused because of anger. Please continue talking. Li Yang looked at his father's back, sighed, and continued, after the incident with the senior sister, Lin Qingxuan has become much quieter. Instead, he would directly use money to hit people, or use some school quotas and resources to threaten. You also heard the conversation just now. This kind of person is very cautious. Even those involved have not been able to preserve solid evidence, let alone me, so I can only use the dumbest method. I disguised myself and contacted the 14 girls who were victims. We agreed to report the case together. Father Kai frowned. Are you sure they will go? There are so many people, it is very likely that the news has spread. Li Yang nodded. I was too angry at that time and didn't think too much. He got wind of it at the first time. A girl used this information to exchange for a sum of money. He threatened them one by one, and then all of them were wiped out. After that, I spent a year identifying those who didn't give up the chance for revenge. I was afraid of arousing vigilance, so I could only hint at it indirectly. There was the precedent of the senior who jumped off the building, and the fact that the person involved didn't want to talk about this kind of thing, so the situation was not ideal. I can only confront them at the last minute, and I only have a 50% chance to prevent the Lin family from using their power at the first opportunity. Dad, please think of a way to get the Lin group to accept an investigation, or spread the word that you are investigating them. This way, the probability can be increased by at least 20%. Lao Li had already sat back on the sofa. You continue talking first. I have direct evidence that my senior sister was gang raped by the school management, but she's dead, and she's been tortured like this again. I'm sure her family won't cooperate. But as long as we can kill Lin Qingxuan, that's another matter. Now that Magic City University is famous for the movie, once the truth comes out, none of the school's corrupt officials will be able to escape. The Lin family has a complex network in the school, and they will definitely be hit hard. Father Kai frowned. Why do I feel that the chances are not as high as you say? Li Yang looked at his father. I remember that there will be an event in various public institutions in a week. He repeated the plan that had been in his mind for 800 times. Okay. After hearing this, Father Li fiercely put out his cigarette butt and said, Dad is old, you can do it, and your dad will clean up the mess. Dad, are you planning to bend the law for personal gain? Father Li frowned again. What? Li Yang shrugged his shoulders. It's okay. As expected of a child who could save people from the hands of vicious criminals at the age of 8, after several years, he had grown up to this point. Kai Wanli also felt that he was getting old. He stroked his chin. If his daughter and he could be together, the family business would have someone to carry on. Coincidentally, Lao Li and he had the same idea. Son, you should work in my field in the future. You are born to be this kind of person. No. Li Yang ignored his father's resentful look and turned his phone back on. He was thinking about the nonsense he had said to Lin Qingxuan before. With Lin Qingxuan's brain, it would not take more than a few hours for him to react. Today's microfilm has been nominated for an international award. For any rich kid, this kind of fame is an inseparable benefit, and Lin Qingxuan would never give it up. But the question is what specific methods the children of wealthy families will use. This touched upon Li Yang's blind spot in knowledge. So he discussed his concerns directly with several elders who had sufficient social experience, and his parents were understandably confused. Kai's mother was confident. I read the rich and powerful stories on Jihu every day, I know. It's nothing more than kidnapping your family or your girlfriend, threatening them. But don't worry, at the most critical moment, the male protagonist will stand up. Li's mother, who rents books from the bookstall all year round and has read all the works of Aunt Qiong Yao, naturally became interested. Are those novels good? Mother Kai nodded repeatedly. It looks good, very good, I watch it every day. Kaimo. She took out her mobile phone and showed the WeChat QR code to Li's mother, as if to recommend the product to her. Li Yang. Old Li. Kai Wanli covered his forehead and said, Excuse me. Kidnapping shouldn't happen. After all, it's only related to Lin Qingxuan's personal interests. The resources that this young generation can mobilize in the family are very limited. If they are smart enough, they won't do such a thing. These days, it's rare to use kidnapping to threaten people. It's possible to kidnap family members, but it's completely nonsense to kidnap a girlfriend. Jiang Guan looked at her husband unkindly, and Kai Wanli rolled his eyes. Li Yang felt much more relieved. then all that's left is coercion and inducement. It's nothing more than making it impossible for you to work in this industry, and then promising you benefits that you can't get. It's just a pretense. Li Yang breathed a sigh of relief. It doesn't matter, just leave it hanging. It only took a few words for the relationship between the three people on the other side to advance by leaps and bounds. Momo is such a nice girl, so obedient and kind. He he. Kai Mo scratched his head shyly. Jianguan. Kai Wanli. If Kai Mo had not been socially anxious to a certain extent, the old couple would never have brought Li Yang into their home. They really had no other choice. After checking for a long time and making sure that Li Yang was more reliable, they dared to bring him back to Kai Mo. They also didn't expect that Kai Mo could love Li Yang to this extent. As long as they were related to Li Yang, they were classified as good people. Sister, it's still early, shall we go shopping? Jianguan invited Li's mother. The weather is too hot. What should I do if my daughter gets heat stroke? Mother Li has been blinded by the adorable Momo. Just go shopping in a mall. The cold weather is coming. Buy some autumn clothes. Mother Li was a little hesitant. She wanted to go, but her family's spending level. Jianguan probably guessed what Li's mother was thinking. I see there is a Yintai city nearby, let's go shopping there. Chapter 18 Holding Hands. Kai Wanli is busy with work, and Lao Li has to review the D-course on the APP. Now the organization has also kept pace with the times. Li Yang's short videos were on hold, so he had nothing to do, but his whole body was still full of resistance. I don't want to go. Kai Mo also shook her head. She had been there once, but when she saw the crowds, she couldn't help but feel scared. It would obviously be more fun to stay with Li Yang. She hadn't discussed her experience with Ultraman with Li Yang yet, and there were many treasures in his room waiting for her to explore. The cardboard box under the bed, the mezzanine in the closet, and the locked drawer on the desk were all full of temptation to her. Jianguan lowered her eyes in frustration. I haven't been shopping with my daughter for many years. Li Yang was a little nervous and looked at Kai Mo. Are we going together? Kai Mo blinked, not understanding why Li Yang changed his mind, but she nodded anyway. As long as there is a small fire, it is safe outside. She was inexplicably annoyed. Why was Xiao Huohuo, such a nice name, given by someone else? I feel a little itchy in my heart. In the car, Li's mother felt a little uneasy. Sitting in the leather seats of the 7-seater Maybach business car, as the wife of a public official, she felt deeply uneasy and had a feeling of being corrupted. Jianguan was considerate and chatted with her about family matters, asking about interesting things in Li Yang's past, how Li Yang's sister was doing in school, whether Li Yang's sister would like Kai Mo, etc. Li's mother soon relaxed. In the back row, Kai Mo sent an emoticon to Li Yang, who was sitting next to him on WeChat. Bare teeth. Heart. Dog. Rabbit. It was quite fun to play. Li Yang is not very happy. He hasn't watched anime for a long time and just wants to catch up. Because he knew that he would most likely go to jail in the future, so asking whether Father Li would bend the law for personal gain was just a casual question. How can I possibly say what I really want to do? He looked at the cute Kai Mo and felt that he had to fulfill some responsibility. Mo, not all people out there are bad. Kai Mo looked at Li Yang in confusion. What nonsense are you talking about? They must all be bad people. Li Yang couldn't explain further to Kai Mo, feeling somewhat helpless. Concepts cannot be changed so easily, otherwise Kai's father and mother would not be so helpless. Would you feel happy if you went shopping with me? Kai Mo smiled widely and nodded, yeah. If you like something, I'll take you there to play. Kai Mo stretched out his finger and pointed at Li Yang. R. He pretended to be stupid. You like shopping for clothes? Kai Mo pouted, picked up his phone and typed, I like you. Do you like mom and dad? Like, but I like you the most. Why do you like mom and dad? Because they are good to me. I am not as good to you as your parents. You should like them the most. Kai Mo's face was full of confusion. He tilted his head and looked at Li Yang. Li Yang was of course at a loss. Kai Mo's ability to understand feelings is not normal, and his attachment to him is also abnormal. Therefore, Li Yang planned to fix some bugs and guide her to regard attachment as family affection, or preferably friendship, so that it would be easy to get along with her. Unfortunately, there was a love programmer on the bus. Kai Mo asked his mother for help and handed over the phone. Jiang Guan looked at Li Yang. Can I see it? How could he refuse this? However, he didn't say anything out of the ordinary. He smiled and nodded. I'm just chatting with Sister Kaimo, you can watch it. Jiang Guan didn't have much experience in relationships between men and women, as she was a love-brained person when she was young, and she has lived like this until now. It was a blessing in disguise, as she had money and free time, so she had plenty of theoretical knowledge, all of which she learned from novels. She saw through Li Yang's thoughts at a glance. Of course, he also recognized that Li Yang really wanted to help Kaimo and had no bad intentions. This further reassured me. But, is Kaimo's feelings for Li Yang really due to childhood trauma? The psychologist said that Kaimo has a strong sense of heroism. When the fear reaches an indelible level, the feeling of being redeemed will be particularly strong. When she later understands more deeply how coincidental it is and how brave Li Yang was at that time, she may only have this one hero in her life. Therefore, Kaimo cannot live without Li Yang. That's the conclusion. Once they meet, there is no end to it. Kaimo will cling to Li Yang for the rest of his life. That was why the couple went around in circles to make the mask and hired someone to do the programming, rather than looking for Li Yang directly. Because it's really unfair. But now, they have reached the end of their rope. Who would be willing to let their young and lovely daughter wither away at home like this? Anyway, this couple would rather give up everything than do this. Momo, do you like mom and dad the same way you like Li Yang? Kaimo tilted his head, thought for a moment, and shook his head. What's the difference? Jiang Guan handed back the phone. Li Yang really couldn't bear to discuss such things face to face. Mother Li had heard this before, and now she felt even more sorry for Kaimo when she saw him. She decided to go back and tell Li Yang again that he must not bully her. Kaimo crossed his arms across his chest, pouting in distress. Take your time to think about it. There's no rush. It must be fun to hang out with Li Yang. Kaimo's little worry disappeared immediately. He nodded, smiled widely, and put his hand on the back of Li Yang's hand. Li Yang awkwardly raised his hand and scratched his head. Sorry, my head is a little itchy. Kaimo stretched out his hand to help Li Yang grab it. It's okay. It's fine. Jiang Guan took a look, searched for a picture, and sent it to Kaimo. Holding hands will make you happier. After Kaimo finished his studies, Jiang Guan left, keeping his achievements to himself, and withdrew the message. She poked Li Yang's palm. What's wrong? Kaimo turned over his palms, raised his chin, and motioned Li Yang to follow suit. Li Yang. He pretended not to understand. Yeah, Sister Kaimo's flower-flipping hands are really beautiful. Aha! She shouted anxiously and looked at her mother as if for help. Alas, Li Yang doesn't want to. Jiang Guan looked at Kaimo in embarrassment and sighed, don't embarrass him. Kaimo lowered his head, like a wilted little white flower. Mother Li had been paying attention to him. She was heartbroken and glanced at Li Yang. Why are you bullying me? Li Yang, I didn't. Still trying to make excuses. Mother Li glared at Li Yang. You have to listen to whatever Sister Momo says. Li Yang could only turn his wrist to please. I can also do the flower hand flip. Kaimo took the opportunity to grab Li Yang's hand, put his fingers between his fingers, then clenched it tightly, and pulled it into his arms domineeringly. She felt numb all over, but she became really happy and grinned. My mother is so amazing, she knows everything. Li Yang's body froze, and then a spell began to play in his mind. This is my biological sister, a family member who is like a mother to me. But her hands are so soft, and her belly is so soft, not the belly. Looking at his mother's murderous eyes, he gently moved his clasped hands away from Kaimo's arms and placed them on the armrest. But the numbing feeling did not disappear, but became more and more intense. Kaimo's breathing became deeper and deeper. She covered her chest with her other hand, feeling uncomfortable in her heart. She began to get scared and asked her mother for help. Jiang Guan heard this, knelt on the chair, and looked at him with concern. Where does it hurt? Before he finished speaking, Jiang Guan realized what was going on and smiled and shook his head. It's okay, I'm not sick. It's different from holding hands with mom. Kaimo exhaled, then nodded. Jiang Guan smiled gently. This is the difference. There are many more different places. Momo has to find them by himself. Li's mother also smiled warmly. Momo is really cute. Chapter 19 Encountered. In a villa in the corner of a manor on the outskirts of Magic City, Lin Qingxuan sat on a rattan chair on the balcony, casually pinching the valuable orchid leaves in the flowerpot and humbly responding to the congratulatory calls. He didn't know how many such calls he received throughout the day. There were people who were recruited within the family, friends in the same circle who came to seek cooperation, and there were also several interview invitations. But Lin Qingxuan's mood was not very good either. It was supposed to be a perfect day. It becomes imperfect because of a little omission. This era has also made the untouchables defensive and have the will to resist. Unfortunately, most of the endings are ridiculous. He has seen too many of them since he was a child, and heard even more. I hope Li Yang is a smart person, otherwise it would be a pity and it would be very difficult to train him. He pinched the orchid leaves again and again, but his heart could not calm down, as if something bad was going to happen. After hesitating for a long time, he walked into the room, took out an old-fashioned mobile phone from the cabinet, and searched for the number amid the beeping sound of keys. Found it, dialed, and then transferred the call. Lin Qingxuan sneered. Even in this day and age, they are still playing in such a traditional way. After half a minute, the call was finally connected. He said calmly, "Help me track the location of a number within 3 days. 187. 50,000. Virtual currency transaction. Yes, I will add your WeChat name as the account in a moment. No need to add it, we can trade directly. Good." After waiting for a while, a form was received in the mailbox. Lin Qingxuan took a quick glance, his eyebrows tinged with gloom. Another idiot. The three-dimensional world is rubbish. No one can discover my beautiful heart. Jiang Nianhua lifted up his t-shirt to wipe the sweat off his face and complained, "Why do girls who pass by avoid me when they see me?" Zhang Zheng, with a cigarette in the corner of his mouth and shaking his legs, took the lemonade handed by Zhang Wenhai and squatted at the door of the milk tea shop like a big bear. He glanced at Jiang Nianhua and said, "Because you look like the male protagonist of an H-comic." Jiang Nianhua. Each of them was holding a glass of lemonade. Since they had some rare free time, they decided to go to the internet cafe for team building. What do you think Li Yang was doing today? Hiding in bed crying. It's hard to imagine, but it feels quite possible. Zhang Wenhai grinned. I had a lot of contact with him when he was a child, so I really can't guess his emotional reaction to this guy. Why don't we just check the location? Jiang Nianhua used his mobile phone to call up the program he wrote himself. The three of them looked at the location and said, "Oh wow, less than a kilometer away, it's in the nearby Yintai." What the hell? Why is he walking around Yintai so many times? It seems like he has walked around the perimeter of Yintai several times. What is he doing? Are we going to snipe him? Go. 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 Li Yan would not go shopping alone, he must have gone to lick again. Zhang Zheng was very interested. But the location is on the road. Mobile phone positioning is not very accurate. At this time, an online car-hailing vehicle stopped on the side of the road. The car door opened, and beautiful legs as white as mutton fat poked out of the car, wearing a pair of sandals, revealing pink toes. Before he even got out of the car, he had already attracted everyone's attention. She gathered her skirt, got out of the car, and stood coquettishly on the side of the road. She looked at the three people in front of her and smiled beautifully. Hello. Jokes are jokes, no matter how beautiful the girl is, brothers are another matter. The few people who were joking just now behaved politely but distantly when they saw the visitor. The woman in front of them is not their sister-in-law yet. Not only that, she has also severely hurt their brothers. Naturally, they will not be too enthusiastic. Zhang Zheng nodded, while Jiang Nianhua silently swiped his phone. Zhang Wenhai had accompanied Li Yang to dinner with her before, so his attitude was much better. Senior, what a coincidence. Then he looked at Yuan behind Chen Yu and greeted her, Senior sister Yuan. Hi, I'm glad to see you guys. Let's go eat. Yuan just said it and found it a little funny. It's almost 3 o'clock. I just said it casually. Don't mind it. Zhang Zheng curled his lips. As outstanding college students, there was no normal schedule during the holidays. They originally planned to go to the internet cafe to order takeout. We really are going to eat. Zhang Wenhai smiled awkwardly. That's it for now, we'll leave first. Are you going to Yintai for dinner? Chen Yu asked. Zhang Wenhai was a little surprised. Didn't she have an appointment with Li Yang? That was so much fun. The three friends all thought of the same thing and their eyes lit up. Yes. Zhang Zheng changed his aloof attitude and quickly took over the conversation. Are you two senior sisters going to Yintai too? Then let's go together. Chen Yu pretended to be casual. Where's Li Yang? Not with you. No. I don't know where he went. I heard he went home. Yesterday she was crying while video chatting with us. I don't know what happened. Sigh. This made Chen Yu feel guilty. She couldn't help but think of Li Yang's indifference to her last night, and his embarrassed look walking alone on the street. She felt so distressed that she couldn't express it in words. Zhang Jing's mouth corners curled up slightly. As someone who only watches pure romance anime, he is very familiar with this kind of plot. You regret it now, and you are now chasing your husband to the crematorium, har har. It is absolutely unforgivable within 3 episodes, senior sister, just go ahead and get a stomachache. Ha 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 ha. The three of them urgently formed a group and united their will. They joined forces to exaggerate and stir up trouble, and made Chen Yu suffer. The result was that before the air conditioner turned on, Chen Yu took the initiative to pay for the meal. Not only could they get a free meal, but they could also help Li Yang with his counterattack, so everyone was in a very good mood. Lao Li, no need to thank us Tilder. On the other side, the business car had already driven around Yintai City several times. The young lady's discomfort was finally relieved, and then it stopped by the roadside. The bodyguard captain, wearing a black suit on a hot day, got out of the car first and opened the door. Zhang Zheng stood on the wind curtain and fanned his collar. These rich people are really good at pretending. Before he finished speaking, 2 women got out of the car first. Godmother. Jiang Nianhua rolled his eyes. You want to take a shortcut? Zhang Wenhai looked at him carefully again and patted Jiang Nianhua on the head. Stop talking nonsense. You are crazy. Jiang Nianhua rubbed his aching head. That's Li Yang's biological mother. Idiot. Jiang Nianhua. Chen Yu, who was putting away her parasol, was stunned. She asked subconsciously with surprise, really? Which one? The one with the scarf. Li's mother also noticed Zhang Wenhai, said something to Jiang Luan, and walked straight towards the group. Godmother. Zhang Wenhai scratched his head and greeted her. You little rascal, why don't you come to our house to play? Mother Li patted Zhang Wenhai's shoulder affectionately. Come to our house for dinner when you have time. You look so thin. No, Zhang Wenhai waved his hands repeatedly. Auntie, how can I be thin? I eat a lot of meat and fish every day. I will come to see you in a few days. Chapter 20, The Army is Defeatable. You kid. Mother Li looked at the others and said, you guys are all Li Yang's classmates, right? Hello, I'm Li Yang's mother. After hearing these words, Auntie, Li's mother narrowed her eyes and smiled. Hey, come to our house when you have time, you are always welcome. When Li's mother and Chen Yu looked at each other, they were both amazed. What a pretty daughter. At the same time, it feels somewhat familiar. Oh, it's the girl in the movie, which means. Noticing her shy and slightly flattering look, Li's mother subconsciously raised the corners of her mouth. Good son, bullshit. Didn't he say that the other party didn't want to talk anymore? The girl is already like this. Is that reasonable? Is that reasonable? Is that reasonable? In the car behind them, her son was still flirting with Kai Mo. Li's mother was so confused that she couldn't explain it at all. Chen Yu noticed that Li's mother was in a state of uncertainty, and it was hard not to misunderstand her. Suddenly, her heart sank, and she said nervously, Auntie, there is some misunderstanding between Li Yang and me. Can I go to your house and explain it to him? It was indeed like this. After getting the confirmation, Li's mother was so embarrassed that she could have worn through the sole of her shoe, and she said vaguely, Ang. At this time, the girl with the gardenia in her pin pulled Mr. Li, who had cried bitterly, listened to Nettie's depression music until dawn, and called Chen Yu in his dreams last night, out of the car. Except for Chen Yu, whose view was blocked by Li's mother, the others all saw it. Although, the actual situation was that Kai Mo was unwilling to let go, and he was sitting in the seat inside, so this happened. But in the eyes of the audience, they are holding hands and are a perfect match. The girl was very stubborn and didn't want to let go, and Mr. Li's face turned red, and he was obviously a little overwhelmed in public. Zhang Zheng shouted in his heart, "This is the reverse push. Cross out. This is sure a field." He silently erected a monument for Mr. Li in his heart. "What's wrong with you?" Chen Yu met the gazes of several people and saw it as well. Stunned, shocked, and terrified. His mind went blank and he reached out and tightly grasped the sleeve of Yuan beside him. Li Yang, who didn't understand what was going on, was still negotiating with Kai Mo. "Sister Kai Mo, it's not good to hold hands like this outside." Snort. Noticing the gazes of passers-by, Kai Mo's original dominance turned into timidity and he hid in Li Yang's arms. Jiang Luan ignored Li Yang's pleading gaze and said calmly, "Go in quickly, it's so hot outside." Li Yang sighed and silently recited the spell several times, hoping not to meet anyone he knew. He fiddled with Kai Mo's hair for a few times, felt her trembling body, and comforted her softly, "It's okay, don't worry, I'm here." The little head nudged in his arms, and Kai Mo's ahoj began to recover from the uneasy shaking. She hummed a few times to cheer herself up, then looked up at Li Yang. After receiving a smile, she held his hand tightly, lowered her head and walked slowly. Li Yang looked up and saw a group of people. He subconsciously covered his face. He couldn't hold it in, he absolutely couldn't hold it in. Of course, Kai's mother also discovered and recognized it. "It's exciting, so exciting. Where can I recharge my membership? Oh, that's not right. My daughter is in crisis. How can I be so excited?" She had lived for so many years, but this was the first time she had encountered such a bloody situation. But no one expected that Chen Yu would take the initiative to walk towards them with a smile. "Li Yang, what a coincidence." She waved with a bright smile, stood in front of Li Yang, and gently put her hair behind her head. "This is." Li Yang also regained some of his composure. He hadn't done anything wrong and there was no need to feel guilty. "This is my friend." When Kai Mo heard the familiar voice, he raised his head and looked at Chen Yu blankly. "I understood it instantly. Enemy, this is the enemy." Aho-sama started to spin. "What should I do? What should I do?" Chen Yu chuckled, "Your mother just explained it to me. This time, I didn't make random assumptions about you." She looked at Kai Mo and showed an impeccable smile. "Sister, what's your name?" For some reason, her original panic disappeared, and her expression changed. She looked Chen Yu straight in the eye, without any cowardice, only determination. Jiang Luan discovered that her daughter seemed to be glowing. The domineering spirit of her father possessed her again, and he stretched out a hand to her mother and hooked his finger. Kai's mother quickly took out her daughter's cell phone from her bag and placed it in her hand. Kai Mo lightly typed the next two words on the keyboard and turned his hand to show Chen Yu. Now it was Chen Yu's turn to be confused. "What is this doing?" Jiang Luan explained, "My daughter can't speak. Look at what she typed. She is introducing herself to you." Oh. The sunlight was a little dazzling. Chen Yu leaned forward slightly and squinted his eyes. Kai Mo. Kai Mo. Something in her memory was awakened. She looked up at Jiang Luan and finally recognized her. She said in surprise, "You are Aunt Jiang? This is the sister Mo from back then. Long time no see, Xiao Yu, you are getting prettier and prettier." She pointed at Li Yang and said, "You may not know that the boy who saved you back then is Li Yang now." Chen Yu stood there blankly. His teenage appearance overlapped with the embarrassed young man in front of him. No wonder she felt a liking for Li Yang at first sight. The emotions that were originally suppressed by reason became even more violent after the rebound. The mind was in a state of confusion and the army was in disarray. I couldn't say a single word I wanted to say. Chen Yu had never been so panicked before. She didn't even know what to do with her hands. She could only clench them tightly, her body shaking uncontrollably. "Li Yang. When did you know that?" "Just a few hours earlier than you." "So, do you still like me?" Li Yang just felt awkward. "Let's be friends, it will be happier that way." Chen Yu's eyelashes trembled slightly, and she blinked a few times to stop the tears from flowing. How could this happen? "I can still make up for it." She looked extremely pitiful. Li Yang frowned. These roommates were really helpless. "You'll get heat stroke. Let's go in first." The girl bit her lip stubbornly. "We still have a chance, but it ends like this, I can't accept it." Li Yang advised, "Can we talk about this later?" Promise me. Otherwise, I will stand here even if I get heat stroke. She acted like a child, begging for what she wanted. Her eyes were red. Then just answer me, can I pursue you? Li Yang. There is no way to answer this question. Silence is the answer. She finally turned her head back, tears streaming down her face. She kept wiping her cheeks, but they were not wiped clean. Tears rolled down my cheeks and slid down the back of my hands. A round mark was left on the ground, which was quickly absorbed by the tiles, leaving nothing behind. Wanwan, take me home. Chapter 21. Look, those three guys just said hello to my mother and then ran away like the wind. Li Yang knew that they must have exaggerated the story. The crowd also dispersed. What is a socially fatal event for the parties involved is nothing more than a spectacle for bystanders. Walk into the mall. The two mothers are in one group, and Li Yang and Kai Mo are in another group. Mother Li was in a good mood. Normally, the two men in the family didn't like shopping, and she felt it was less interesting to go shopping with Li Qingxuan and her daughter. But today I feel like I'm shopping with my mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, it's very fresh. Jiang Guan recalled the first time she was with Kai Wanli. At that time, Kai Wanli was still a small boss, and the couple was so busy that they had no time to rest. Later, when she became pregnant, her husband didn't want her to work too hard, so he always sent her home first. If a person doesn't want to cook, he will come to this kind of place to eat a bowl of noodles or a rice bowl. What I hear most often is people of my own age complaining about how their bosses are not human beings. She would giggle secretly while eating her meal in big gulps. Later on, in order to take care of Kai Mo, I seldom went out. Coming here is like going back to my youth. She pointed to a men's clothing store and said, "Sister-in-law, would you like to go into this store and take a look?" Li's mother looked at the store's "National Trends Are Coming" logo and the fancy clothes inside, and curled her lips. "I heard that bosses like your boss, Mr. Kai, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a suit. How can he wear this?" Jiang Guan smiled, "That's for formal occasions. Now that Xiao Li is here, Momo dares to go out. When things get better, our two families can go on a trip together. Let's see whose husband dresses more youthfully, how do you think?" Li's mother was moved. She chose Lao Li among all the suitors. 90% of the reason was because of his good looks. But doing this job for many years, she would carry a thermos cup and a notebook every day, looking like a cadre going to the countryside. He was quite reliable, but she was a little tired of seeing him. After hearing what Jiang Guan said, she suddenly realized something. She was reluctant to change her husband, but she could change her clothes. So the two like-minded people hung the bag on the head of Li Yang, the arch-enemy, and walked into the store hand in hand. On the other side, Li Yang took Kai Mo and sat on the rest bench. Kai Mo was obviously not used to it, with his head drooping and his alopecia were drooping. Whenever someone passed by or she heard a conversation not far away, she would shudder. She moved closer to Li Yang, wanting to hold his hand. But he moved his butt, turned his head, and looked angry. Then I was scared by passers-by. This cycle repeats itself. Li Yang felt that he would probably never be able to understand the science of women's hearts. Even a simple girl like Kai Mo could not be understood by him. "What's wrong with you?" Snort. Being the center of attention, she shrank back and moved closer to Li Yang. Li Yang thought she was a little cute and a little pitiful, and asked, "Are you angry?" Kai Mo. "Okay, got it." "Why?" Kai Mo scratched his ear in annoyance, subconsciously not wanting to pay attention to him. "Please type it for me. I won't understand if you don't tell me." After saying something in a coaxing tone, she took out the cell phone from Li Yang's bag. Li Yang immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that Kai Mo is easy to coax. Thinking so, he opened WeChat. Angry. "Li Yang, I was wrong." Kai Mo nodded his head. Li Yang breathed a sigh of relief. Kai Mo. Li Yang. Kai Mo. Li Yang. She crossed her arms over her chest. HMPH. Li Yang? Kai Mo once again faced new and unfamiliar emotions. I just felt sad. After hearing what he said, I felt inexplicably irritated. It's not that she hates him, she obviously likes Xiao Huohuo very much. But she just felt that by doing this, Xiao Huohuo would be nicer to her. For example, take the initiative to hold her hand, talk to her more, and hug her like a mother when she goes to sleep. As a result, when Kai Mo saw Li Yang playing with his mobile phone, he suddenly felt empty and didn't even notice the passers-by. It seemed as if he was the only one in this world. So she stretched out a hand, blocked the phone screen, and spread out her white fingers. R. She pointed at Li Yang's other free hand. Holding hands. She nodded. Li Yang took her small hand, but did not hold their fingers tightly, which he would sometimes do when he took his sister out to play. Anyway, I have already died socially. He glanced at Kai Mo's expression. Omega? Li Yang. No. Angry. Omega, HMPH. Okay, got it. Li Yang put his cell phone in his pocket. Aunt Qianglwan had just told him that he could take Kai Mo to eat some snacks here. Kai Mo probably hasn't eaten this kind of snacks in shopping malls before. So he pointed to the volcanic stone sausages not far away. Do you want to eat? R. Pork sausages, grilled. Kai Mo felt quite happy sitting here. Because that furry guy with the white hat looks scary when he smiles. She kind of didn't want to go. But Li Yang swallowed subconsciously. She nodded anyway. After getting permission, Li Yang took Kai Mo's hand and walked towards the kind-faced uncle. Kai Mo still kept his head down, walking slowly, hiding behind Li Yang, holding his hand with one hand and holding his waist with the other. After receiving 2 grilled sausages and sitting back in her seat, she gently supported her chest and let out a long sigh. Li Yang handed one over and started chewing it in big mouthfuls. Kai Mo imitated Li Yang and took a bite. But obviously his skills were not good enough and he got burned, and the sausage fell to the ground. This was something she had bought at such a great risk, and it was something her beloved big baby loved to eat, but she hadn't tasted it yet. There was mist in his eyes. It was okay to make her cry, he quickly said, don't cry, I'll buy you another one. Kai Mo was even sadder, her little head was shaking like a rattle. She would die if she went there again. It's so scary. Li Yang quickly broke off a piece with his hands and handed the rest to her. Here, eat this. He blew it several times, and thinking of how desperate she was when eating, he reminded her, take a small bite. Kai Mo wiped his eyes, stretched out his head and took a small bite. Another bite. Another bite. Another bite. Then I couldn't help but eat it all in one gulp. Tilde. Is it tasty? Kai Mo praised with frozen politeness. There were little stars in his eyes. He stared at the bamboo stick, as if he wanted to take a bite. She remembered the sausage that had fallen to the ground. Li Yang was horrified. You can't pick it up, I'll buy you another one. Kai Mo blinked. She was just taking a look and she wouldn't pick up anything on the ground and eat it. But when she saw Xiao Huo's anxious look, she felt inexplicably happy. She was so happy that she put her head in his arms. Chapter 22, No Way Back. After Li Yang received a phone call, Li's mother and Qianglwan also came out. They didn't seem to have any intention of taking the bag back from Li Yang's neck. It was the first time for him to carry such an expensive bag, and he felt pretty good about it. As for why I know the bag is expensive, firstly, I judge it from the family background, and secondly, the eyes of girls passing by will unconsciously be cast towards Kai's mother's bag. Fortunately, the bags of clothes that the 2 mothers bought were taken away by the bodyguard captain. This made Li Yang even more curious about where the bodyguard captain was hiding. He looked around just now but couldn't find him. As soon as the aunt came out, the captain of the bodyguards appeared. After taking the bag, he disappeared at the speed of light without saying a word and making no sound when walking. A monthly salary of 200,000 is really not a small amount. Li Yang suddenly felt that the work he did was not worth even 3,000 yuan. Who did you call just now? Li Yang followed the disappearing figure of the bodyguard captain and said casually, I'm just chatting with a friend. What's wrong, Mom? He caught a glimpse of my mother winking at him from the corner of his eye, and then looked at Kai Mo beside him. Her cheeks were already puffed out. Li Yang. Seeing that her hand was opening again, Li Yang took it. Kai Mo? Omega? Mother Li. Qianglwan. This is the only way I know. Li Yang explained, I treat her as my sister. It's up to you. Li's mother looked indifferent. Qianglwan smiled and said, then I'll ask you to take good care of my sister from now on. Li Yang nodded, of course, Sister Kai Mo is so cute. Kai Mo's head began to nod towards Li Yang's arms again, and he looked very happy. Li Yang was no longer feeling awkward, and looked calm and composed. He was just thinking depressedly, I still don't know where the bodyguard captain is hiding. Mother Li. Jianguan. In this way, wherever the two mothers went, the two children would sit on the bench there. Li Yan would also find a way to take Kai Mo to buy some delicious food, such as small cakes, milk tea, sushi, octopus balls and so on. Kai Mo ate it all. Her mood was getting better and better. Although I was still afraid, I wasn't shaking as badly. It's just that her head would occasionally be buried in Li Yang's arms, and her hair was a little messy. After visiting 3 places, it was almost dark when they arrived at the hotel. The two mothers reluctantly left Yintai. In the car, Jianguan tied Kai Mo's hair into a bun again. Kai Mo was saying something, and Jianguan kept apologizing softly. Although she was comforting Kai Mo with her words, her body seemed to be on vibrating mode, revealing Jianguan's happiness. Maybe some new function of Kai Mo was unlocked. Li Yan regards himself as a medicine, and of course he is happy to see Kai Mo change. He pinched his little finger and felt that his hand was almost rubbed raw by Kai Mo. Her hand was not at all calm and kept moving around, but she was unwilling to let go. The bodyguard captain parked the car steadily downstairs of the office building and picked up Kai Wanli, who looked like he didn't want to go to work. After climbing into the car, Kai Wanli greeted Li's mother, then ran to sit behind Kai Mo. Momo, are you having fun? She nodded. Do you miss Dad? Snort. Dad misses you so much. Snort. Alas, Daddy worked really hard today. It was all because of Momo. There was nothing I could do. Snort. Dad made a lot of money today, let me buy you a gift. Snort. Li Yang. Jianguan listened, turned around and smiled, buy a bag for Momo. Kai Mo's ears moved noticeably and he glanced at his mother. Bags? You can have as many as you want, but Momo doesn't like them. Kai Wanli unbuttoned the top button of his shirt and sighed, there's no fun in going to work at all. Jianguan said cheerfully, when we were shopping today, Li Yang carried my bag but not Momo's. She was mad at me. Li Yang. Kai Mo, huh? Kai Wanli burst out laughing, then picked up his phone with great interest, flipped through his circle of friends, and saved a bunch of pictures. Kai Mo's WeChat was ringing. Baby, pick out the ones you don't like. Kai Mo picked up the phone, slid his fingers across it, looked as if he was having trouble making a decision, scratched his face, and handed the phone to Li Yang. Li Yang shook his head, I don't know how to choose, you choose it yourself. Kai Mo looked frustrated, so Li Yang had no choice but to take the phone and randomly picked a cute bag. Under Kai Wanli's protest, 2 more were selected. Kai Wanli was very dissatisfied, it's too cheap, the total cost is less than 100,000, choose another one. The others don't match Sister Kai Mo's temperament. Kai Wanli spread his hands and said, no need to save money for me. If I buy it too cheaply, they will look down on my daughter. With your rich and inhumane appearance, who would look down on you? Li Yang secretly complained in his heart but pretended not to hear. Jianguan clapped her hands and said, oh, by the way, let's go to the store and buy some for Momo tomorrow. She's going to school soon, and she needs to buy some stationery. Li Yang looked a little embarrassed, Auntie, I just want to say something. Don't be so polite. Just speak frankly from now on. Can you temporarily not let Kai Mo go to school with me and wait for a while? Of course, it's not that I don't want to, it's just my personal problem. Jianguan nodded, sure, wait until you have dealt with your own affairs first. But you have to spend more time with Momo when you are free. I'll try my best. Jianguan didn't say anything after hearing that. Kai Wanli looked up at the road and saw the car heading straight to their hotel, so he reminded, hey, aren't you going to pick up Lao Li? Li's mother explained, he had to work overtime, there was nothing we could do. Kai Wanli slapped his head and finally thought of something, you are worried about breaking the organization's discipline. I didn't think it through. Come to my house for dinner next time. Mother Li sighed and didn't make any more excuses, there's nothing I can do about this job. I shouldn't have come in the first place, but it was my husband, Mr. Li, who told me not to mind and asked me to accompany him for dinner. Jianguan felt a little guilty, sister-in-law, I'm sorry for causing trouble. I've helped my family so much, and I still want you to take care of our feelings. Oh, don't say that. My son is lucky to be able to help. Momo is so well behaved, how can it be considered a trouble? Hey, is this what you are talking about? Li Yang rolled his eyes. Went into a private restaurant. Kai Wanli ordered a few dishes and asked for the menu. Li's mother was polite and Li Yang took over and just ordered 2 at random. The dishes came. Jiang Luan put a scooter on Kai Mo and said helplessly, "My daughter eats very hard, no matter how I teach her, she won't get well." Kai Mo resisted. You're wearing a white dress today. It won't look good if it gets dirty. If it doesn't look good, Li Yang won't like you, right? As she spoke, she looked at Li Yang. Li Yang opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. As a result, Kai Mo looked up at Li Yang and compromised. The meal was very satisfying and both their host and the guests enjoyed themselves. The main reason was that Kai Mo ate so deliciously that almost everyone at the table was looking at her while eating. After chatting for a few words, everyone except Li Yang went back home. When he got home, Li Yang just saw his luggage being taken away by a small truck. He suddenly realized that he could never go back to this home. I can't help but worry. The treasures hidden in the boxes under the bed, the gaps in the wardrobe, and the locked cabinets on the desk should not have been discovered. Chapter 23 Nai Qian. Qingxian, what do you want to eat? The woman on the bed was only covered with a blanket, and her flushed cheeks were reflected in the dim light of the mobile phone screen. Lin Qingxuan pulled up his pants, turned on the light, and said coldly, "Whatever." Nai Qian squinted because of the light. She looked a little aggrieved, wrapped in a blanket, walked through the wide-open bedroom door and walked barefoot to the bathroom. When she walked out of the bedroom, stroking her hair, there were already 5 cigarette butts in the ashtray on the coffee table. Her eyes were gentle. "Qingxian, what's wrong with you?" Lin Qingxian frowned. "I remember telling you, stay out of my business." Nai Qian lowered her eyes and sat beside him. Seeing that she seemed to be hesitant to speak, Lin Qingxian sneered, "How much do you want?" Nai Qian shook her head. "My father's surgery fee is enough, I don't want any money." "Then why are you here? Are you addicted to selling?" Nai Qian's body stiffened, a gleam of water flashed in her eyes, and she lowered her head again. Lin Qingxian played with the lighter in his hand. "Did I light too many cigarettes for you, which gave you an illusion? How about I introduce you to some customers?" "Qingxian, why are you humiliating me like this? I'm just trying to get my father treated. If I wasn't in a hurry for the money, I wouldn't do this." "So you want to take the top position?" Nai Qian remained silent, pinching her fingertips, tears dripping down her cheeks. Finally, I raised my head, wiped my tears, and stood up, saying in a low and hoarse voice, "I'm leaving." She stood up and walked towards the entrance. She hit her toe on the coffee table and it hurt, but she didn't stop. She put on her high heels, emptied her bag and put it into a plastic bag. "I'll return your bag to you. I'll also pay you back the money you borrowed from me." In the quiet villa, the only sound was the chaotic tapping of heels on the marble steps. Lin Qingxian sat on the rattan chair on the balcony, watching Nai Qian limping away, his eyes heavy. "Come back." She turned her head back, with a hint of surprise on her stubborn face, but she quickly concealed it and turned it into a cold expression. "I have already sold it. What else does Master Lin want to talk to me about?" He crossed his arms and said condescendingly, "If you borrow my money, I will charge interest. I will give you every penny. It's not that easy. Just help me do something. After you're done, you can leave or not." She turned around and walked back to the villa, gritting her teeth, and stood in front of Lin Qingxian. "Master Lin, what do you want me to do?" Lin Qingxian tilted his head. "I want you to sue someone for rape." Nai Qian had an expression of uncontrollable disappointment on her face. She turned her head away, tears welling up in her eyes again. "I won't do this for you. You have such a backbone, why did you climb into my bed for money?" She wiped her tears and said, "Yes, I have no backbone. I didn't go to the bank to borrow money, but I had to borrow from you and climbed into your bed. I am a slut, a whore. Are you satisfied with this?" Lin Qingxuan's face was still gloomy, but a strange color flashed in his eyes, and he licked his palate. "If you want to follow me, you have to do this kind of thing." He stood up and said in a hoarse voice, "Where do you think the money and power come from? If you agree, you can stay here later. If you don't agree, just leave and I won't look for you again. I don't ask you for money. The bag is also a gift for you. It's up to you if you lose it." Nai Qian was a little dazed and forgot to wipe her tears. Her pair of red eyes stared straight at Lin Qingxian. He actually saw a trace of pity in Nai Qian's eyes and heard her unconsciously murmur, "Qingxian, it's so tiring to live like this." Lin Qingxuan couldn't help but sneer, took out a cigarette from the cigarette box and lit it. "In my family, if you don't do what I do, you can only kneel for the rest of your life. You should leave, this place is not suitable for you." "What if I say I am willing?" Nai Qian sobbed, but her tone was firm. Lin Qingxuan's pupils were dark and he frowned. "Do you understand what I'm saying? I am willing to be with you, even if I have to kneel with you in the end, I am willing." "Heh." Lin Qingxian snorted coldly, but the hand holding the cigarette finally began to tremble uncontrollably. "Once it starts, it won't end. Even if you regret it, you can't get out of it." "I have no regrets. I won't marry you. I will choose a vase that can help my career. You can only be my mistress at best." Nai Qian lowered her head and whispered, "Then can we have our own children?" Lin Qingxian put out the cigarette butt and crossed his arms. "Are you sick?" "Yes, I am sick. I just like you." "What's wrong?" Lin Qingxian stood up and picked up the car keys. "I'll give you one night to think about it. If you regret it, leave." He left as if escaping. Nai Qian stood on the balcony and watched Lin Qingxuan's black sports car speed away. The corners of her lips curled up in a sneer. Sent a message to someone, false accusation of rape. "Chen Yu, look at what you did." Chen's mother threw down her phone in anger. "Look at you, you were even recorded by others. What's so good about that man?" Chen Yu felt very guilty. He lowered his head and ate silently without refuting. Looking back, it was a bit embarrassing. Chen Kang frowned, not understanding why his wife, who had just been serving food to his daughter, was now in such a state. "Why are you so anxious? Did she kill someone or set a fire? Look for yourself." Chen Kang held the phone away, played the video, watched it for a while and then turned it off. "The child has grown up. It's her own business. We shouldn't interfere." "Oh, I can't control her. Who do you think I did this for? It's so embarrassing. What if this gets out?" Chen Kang took a bite of food and said, "This is an invasion of privacy. I will delete the contact." Chen Yu breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Dad." Mother Chen snorted and sat back down. "Oh, I'm the only bad guy. Mom, do you know who he is?" Chen Yu asked cautiously. "Even if it's the King of Heaven, it has nothing to do with me. I can't control your affairs." Chen Kang raised his eyelids and said, "Don't be sarcastic. Speak nicely." "Oh, you're still anxious. It's all your fault. I told you to take care of it earlier. I don't think that boy is a good person, but you refused." Chen Yu blushed. "Mom knows too. I knew it long ago. He already has a girlfriend. Why did you rush over to him?" Chen's mother was furious. "Can't you leave him?" Chen Yu could only lower his head. "He's the man who saved your daughter more than a decade ago." Chen's mother's eyes twitched. "Really?" Chen Kang nodded. "Really? Then you should thank me very much. Is this appropriate? Even if you saved 100 lives, you wouldn't give me something for nothing." Chen's mother took a sip of water to calm herself down. "Mom, that's not his girlfriend. There's a reason for that." "What's the reason? Is she his sister?" "I've never seen a sister stick so close to her brother." Chen Kang frowned. "That's the Kai family's daughter. You know her daughter's illness?" Chen's mother thought for a while and said, "It's the one who was almost killed and couldn't speak afterwards." "Yes, she gets sick every year. Maybe she had no other choice this year, so she asked Li Yang for help." Chen Yu put down his chopsticks. "Dad, why didn't you tell me if you knew it earlier? Good fellow, it's coming for me." He picked up the last grain of rice, stuffed it into his mouth, drank the water in the cup, and hurriedly picked up the coat on the back of the chair. "I'll go to the police station to check. Leave the door open for me tonight." "Dad, don't run." Chen Yu pulled his clothes. "I really have something to do. I have an appointment. If you don't believe me, ask your mother. You must know Li Yang's father." "Yes, he asked me out today." "Oh, can I come with you? Is it appropriate for you to go to discuss work?" Chen Kang sighed. "I'll take you there when we meet privately next time. Then go quickly." Facing Chen's mother's murderous gaze, Chen Yu hurriedly cleaned up the dishes. Chapter 24. I want to go home. Bodyguards were coming in and out carrying luggage. Li Yang couldn't figure out what was going on in his mother's mind. Even the furniture in his room was packed up and taken away by the Kai family. I could only watch in silence as each item was moved into the room next to Kai Mo. It can't be said to be next door, because the two rooms have been connected. He walked downstairs. Auntie, didn't you bring my bed? Jiang Luan was applying facial cream to Kai Mo, who had just finished taking a shower. She turned around and said, "Yeah, aren't you going home? The new bed was ordered from abroad and will arrive in a few days." Li Yang rubbed his eyebrows. "How much do you want me to sleep in the same bed with your daughter?" The nanny who was cleaning the room came down the stairs. Jiang Luan greeted her. "Auntie Wu, have you packed your things?" Wu Mar nodded. Okay. Okay, take a rest. You've worked hard. Thank you. Jiang Luan looked at Li Yang and said, "Xiao Li, go get some clothes and take a shower." Li Yang. 1 minute later. He lay down in the jacuzzi and studied its functions. Oh wow, it can even play music. Li Yang fiddled with it with interest, and the music started playing. "I'm here, don't be afraid." Li Yang listened to his own voice coming from the speaker without any preparation, and felt a chill. This is too perverted. I can't help but recall the physical examination I had this summer. At that time, I was wondering why there was a voice test in the physical examination. The sentences to be read were so strange, and it was required to be expressed with emotion. Now the case has finally been solved. I must negotiate with this family later and ask them to delete them all. I also have to ask them whether the pillows, masks, AR/VR programs and other things have been thrown away and deleted. Living room. Kai Mo sat on the sofa, playing the 10 yuan game console he brought back from Li Jiaxuan. Ding 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 ding. Jiang Luan sat aside and watched. Kai Mo had a lot of fun playing with the pixel tank and fighting against others. Jiang Luan was also somewhat interested. "Let me borrow your money to play with." Mom helped you move all his treasures back. You can go exploring anytime in the future, but you won't even lend me your games to play. Kai's mother was so shrewd that she could condemn her daughter's conscience with just a few simple words. Kai Mo handed over the game console reluctantly. Okay, Mom will treasure it and give it back to you after playing with it once." When Li Yang came out of the bathroom, he saw Kai Mo and Jiang Luan having fun, and the corners of his mouth twitched. He got bored of this thing after playing with it for a day as a kid, and then it disappeared into the room. I didn't expect that Kai Mo could find it by just flipping through it, and he could even play it. I even played with it like a baby for a whole day. Kind of cute. He smiled and shook his head, took out his mobile phone from his pocket, found a message, clicked it and took a look, then frowned. The god stood there in a daze for a few minutes, then suddenly laughed. When he came to his senses, he found that both mother and daughter were staring at him. Kai Mo looked at Li Yang with a scrutinizing gaze. "Oh?" Li Yang still didn't understand at all. "Ho." Jiang Luan smiled. Momo asked what you were thinking. Li Yang, "Auntie, can you delete the recording of the jacuzzi?" Jiang Luan shook her head. "No, or you can take a bath with Kai Mo." Kai Mo? Li Yang. He sat down on the soft sofa chair and found that Kai Mo didn't come close to him. He breathed a sigh of relief, finally having time to catch up on the anime. And on the opposite side, Jiang Luan whispered in Kai Mo's ear, "You've been diverted." His reaction just now was not about this. Kai Mo's hair received some kind of signal and danced uneasily. She whispered in her mother's ear, "Oh. Jiang Luan, silly girl, this reaction is either serious or a woman's. These are the only two things that men really care about." Kai Mo was shocked and whispered, It's possible that it's that person, but it's not certain. At this time, we need firepower reconnaissance." If he doesn't want to talk, then don't ask anymore. It's not good for Mom to ask. By the way, do you know his cell phone password? Face recognition, this function is indeed the most annoying thing in the 21st century. There's nothing we can do for now, just keep observing. Li Yang observed them out of the corner of his eye. Li Yang could understand that the mother and daughter were whispering to each other, as her mother and sister often did such little things. I have to say, Aunt Jiang Luan is a little too strong. Kai Mo's way of speaking was so soft, but she could actually understand it. It's true that he has some superpowers. Actually, Kai Mo could say it openly, but he wouldn't understand. After watching an episode of anime at triple speed, the two had finished their whisper and the mother and daughter searched the refrigerator together. I found some bananas, apples, jackfruits, dates and so on and had a feast. Li Yang also had to accept a banana. He peeled it and asked, "Where's Uncle Kai?" He went to work overtime, saying that his daughter would soon learn how to spend money, and he had to encourage her. Li Yang's sense of guilt suddenly surged up, as if he was also responsible. Then, continue to follow the show. After 3 episodes of anime, a familiar little paw appeared again and waved between Li Yang's face and the phone. He looked up at the pitiful Kaimo, and a feeling of uneasiness came over him. Li Yang gave a forced smile. "What's wrong?" Kaimo pouted. "Oh, aha." Jiangluan was cracking melon seeds and watching the variety show on TV as if nothing had happened. "Momo asked you to hug him and asked you to give way to me with your hand." Li Yang's cheeks twitched and he smiled awkwardly. "Auntie, this is not appropriate." Jiangluan put down the melon seeds and said seriously, "This will help her. You don't want to be pestered for the rest of your life, do you?" Li Yang felt that this kind of talk was not much different from the rhetoric of, "I'm just taking a look." He decided that he would never drink again in his life. It's too dangerous. If I hadn't been in a daze last night and fell for this family's warm offensive, things wouldn't have ended like this. Shandong people are too mean when it comes to persuading people to drink, and the city's tricks are too deep. Realizing that Kaimo was showing signs of force, he had no choice but to put his hand on the armrest of the sofa. Kaimo put his feet on the edge of the sofa, then sat down on Li Yang's thighs, hooked his legs around his waist, and moved forward using his waist as a fulcrum. Finally, she put her hands under his armpits and hugged him tightly. The soft object deformed on his chest, and Li Yang could even feel Kaimo's heartbeat. Well, very stable, like an athlete. He suddenly felt that his dong 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 dancing was a little unprofessional. Family members, who can bear this? But Kaimo's combo was not yet complete. He moved his butt to adjust his posture, and fiddled with it for a while before he was finally satisfied. She rubbed her soft cheek against his neck, her warm breath constantly blowing on his neck. Chapter 25 Watching Animation. This was a huge shock to Li Yang. Therefore, we are facing a very serious situation. This action is absolutely not responsive. If Kaimo asked what this hard thing was in front of Aunt Jiangluan, just like in the cartoons and novels, he would be socially dead to the extreme, and probably no other experience in this life would be able to surpass it. The previous spell of "she is my sister," a family member like a mother, was no longer useful when Kaimo moved his butt just now. He temporarily suppressed it with Amitabha, and then urgently searched for a copy of the Diamond Sutra on Baidu. After finishing reciting, he finally drew his attention back to look at Aunt Jiangluan for help. She was eating melon seeds and watching variety shows, completely ignoring him. Even under Li Yang's gaze, he calmly picked up his phone and ordered takeout. "Want some midnight snack?" "Li Yang, eat. Crawfish is okay?" "Good. Spicy or garlic is fine. We have new mouthwash in the mirror cabinet." "Don't worry." "Li Yang. Auntie, I treat her as my sister." "Oh, sure, sure." Jiangluan replied perfunctorily, and then continued to look at the menu. "Let's have some more mantis shrimp, white noodles or rice noodles, and by the way, would you like some grilled leeks and oysters?" "Is this my sister? You treasure this daughter so much, why are you in such a hurry to give her away? Are you really planning to broadcast it all over the city?" Jiangluan said, shook his head, and said to himself, "Forget it, Kai Wanli might really kill you." Sober. He understood. This is a unique reminder. White noodles or rice noodles? Li Yang, white noodles. Her fingers moved rapidly across the screen as she placed the order and paid skillfully. He put down his phone, picked up some melon seeds, and continued watching the variety show. Li Yang was imprisoned by Kaimo and could not play with his mobile phone, so he could only watch. To be honest, it's really awkward to watch dating shows from a man's perspective. When Li Yang finally looked inside, Aunt Jiangluan looked at the crazy men and women on the screen who were desperately shedding sweat and tears to make money, sighed quietly, and began to talk to herself again. "Alas, my poor daughter, she's already 20. Li Yang. Take me back, I want to go home." After having supper, I helped clear the table and went to brush my teeth. Li Yang hesitated for a long time, but finally opened a bottle of mouthwash. When I walked out of the bathroom, there was no one on the first floor. The villa area was very quiet. I could even hear the sound of CC coming from the cell phone of the bodyguard captain at the door. He was probably appreciating the art of dancing. Li Yang walked out of the door. The bodyguard captain glanced at him. He took the cigarette butt from the corner of his mouth, flicked the ash, and said coldly, "When I was young, I captured more than a dozen asin at the border. I am a 7th degree black belt in Aikido, a 3rd degree black belt in Judo, and a 9th degree black belt in Sonder. What are you talking about? Let you run for 2 minutes first." Li Yang's cheeks twitched. "I didn't plan to run away, I just wanted to ask if there were any bedding downstairs, so I could sleep on the sofa until the bed arrived." "Then you might as well give it a try. The woman in this family is more difficult to deal with than me." He sighed faintly and looked at Li Yang with resentment. He took out his pad and clicked on a certain website. He slid the screen with one hand while watching the dancing girl on the phone. "Now my KPI assessment has one more item. I have to read a certain website article with at least 100,000 words for 2 hours every day, and I have to learn how to talk like the housekeeper in it." A resolute middle-aged man, with a face full of humiliation, said, "Our young lady hasn't been so happy for a long time. You are the first man she has brought home. Please, sir, don't leave her, okay? I beg you to be obedient and don't make me say these lines." Li Yang felt deeply sympathetic. Is there a possibility that they just think it's more fun this way? Piad's facial recognition system sounded an alarm. This is truly a professional KPI assessment. The bodyguard captain passed the review with a straight face. He put the cigarette butt back into his mouth, puffing out smoke, as if reminiscing about something, but it was hard to see clearly because of his sunglasses. A long time ago, they were so happy too. Now they are finally back. "I still want to thank you." He looked up at Li Yang with a faint smile on his face. "You can call me uncle." Li Yang. Li Yang thought that he and Kai's father had a close relationship, and he really didn't think of it as a relative. "Dear." He glanced at WeChat and said, "Yes, hurry up and get on there. I need someone to come to me." Li Yang. This uncle loves cosplay so much. He is more professional than a real bodyguard, he is also NP. "Since you love your niece so much, I have no objection." Although Li Yang didn't want to say it, he always felt that there was something a little abnormal in their family's brains. "Go upstairs with heavy steps." When I opened the door, I saw Kai Mo, the aunt, hugging him on the bed, watching the projection on the screen, which was playing Ultraman Tiger. Like the sun shining through the darkness, tilde. Dawn quietly passes across the horizon, tilde. Aunt Jiangluan listened to music with a stiff smile and some PTSD, perhaps because she had seen too much. Kai Mo patted the bed and waved his little hand, seeming to be very much looking forward to watching the movie with Li Yang. "Auntie, this is inappropriate." Jiangluan sighed, "Then I'll leave." "Li Yang, can I sit on that sofa chair?" "Okay, I'll just go." Her tone was stiff, but unfortunately she didn't move at all. It could only be said that she acted very well. My dear, there is more to this chapter. Please click on the next page to continue reading. It's even more exciting later. Li Yang could only sit on the edge of the bed, then lie down at the very edge. He pulled the pillow he brought back from home, put it under his waist, and half lying against the headboard. Kai Mo pounced on his food like a hungry tiger and dived into Li Yang's arms. He accepted his fate, since it wasn't as thrilling as what he had just experienced. After the downgrade, I didn't feel anything. 3 minutes later. The operations room finally discovered the monster, and fighter planes were dispatched, but after all the fancy work, they couldn't even scratch the monster's skin. Jiangluan whispered, "I heard that watching romance movies between men and women can help their relationship." Kai Mo raised his head and looked at Li Yang. He also didn't want to watch Ultraman, especially the old-school kind, but he couldn't accept soap operas even more. So I picked up my phone and asked my classmate Zhang Zheng, a pure love warrior, for advice. "What kind of healing fan is there?" Finally getting into the game. Clanad, the eternal god, I'll be there after watching it. Ignoring his excited preaching, I turned off the sound on my phone. Li Yang looked at Kai Mo and asked, "Want to watch another movie?" Kai Mo nodded, R. She said it would be okay to change to a romance movie. I took the remote control from Jiangluan and found this anime. Jiangluan was finally free, and her mood suddenly became high. He turned on the light, pulled a crossbed table, brewed a pot of health tea, put a sleeping mask on his daughter and himself, and kindly asked Li Yang, "Would you like one?" Li Yang respectfully declines the offer. Kai Mo hummed. Li Yang was defeated again. Kai Mo could only play around. After wasting 3 facial masks, the aunt took action personally to solve the problem. The ceremony is ready and starts playing. Jiangluan said with a smile, "Oh, campus romance, I have never seen Japanese cartoons before, I need to learn from them." Kai Mo nodded her little head. She regarded her mother as an authority in this regard, so she watched it very seriously. Chapter 26 Second Night. This male lead is not as handsome as Li Yang. Long hair? I don't know. You can let him grow it for a while and see if it will look different. You want to dye your hair? What color? Oh. The heroines. Too plain. Black would be better. Or how about short hair? It would look fresh and lovely, campus style. He tilde. He already has a heroine but he still gives warmth to other women. What a bastard, what a scumbag. Kai Mo's cheeks puffed up with anger. That's not Li Yang. Don't get too caught up in the drama. She blinked, then turned over and saw Li Yang's face, which was mottled with light and shadow. She reached out and touched it. She asked if you would betray her and play with other women. Li Yang. Jiangluan nodded. He said she will only love you in this life. Li Yang. Kai Mo chuckled, arched his back in his arms again, and held his hand behind his neck. In this way, the mother and daughter watched the projection chatteringly, and Li Yang was not affected by the talking and Kai Mo's little movements. As long as the question was about Li Yang, Jiangluan would translate it and answer it for him, and he only had to cooperate with Kai Mo's little movements. Then Kai Mo will be very happy. Jiangluan was also very happy. To be honest, Li Yang was also very happy. At 2 o'clock in the morning, both mother and daughter fell asleep. Li Yang found the remote control on the bedside table, turned off the projector, and prepared to get out of bed and lie down on the sofa. But the two of them rolled around on the bed in exactly the same way. Their sleeping postures were so exaggerated that Li Yang was afraid that Kai Mo would fall off. He leaned against the bed as a guardrail. Finally, when Li Yang was about to get out of bed because of Kai Mo's increasingly arrogant sleeping posture, Kai's father gently opened the door. He tiptoed and picked up Jiangluan, giving Li Yang an apologetic look. "Take a rest." He hugged Jiangluan and closed the door. Jiangluan was awakened by the light in the corridor. Seeing that it was Kai Wanli, she hugged his neck and kissed him. "Thank you for your hard work. Are you hungry?" "We've had supper," Kai Wanli said, tired but looking very happy. He hugged his wife and walked towards his bedroom. It was the right choice. "Yeah, Momo is very happy today." Kai Wanli nodded. "Did Xiao Li say anything?" Jiangluan yawned and leaned against her husband's chest. "He told me that he would postpone the time to take Kai Mo to school. That crappy school is going to be closed soon. There's really no point in going there now. So fast. I'm not that optimistic. It's quite troublesome. Then Xiao Li will be fine. It's okay, go to sleep." Kai Wanli covered her with a blanket and unbuttoned his shirt. "I'll go take a shower first." Kai Mo's range of activities has increased and the danger has decreased. Li Yang groped his way to the sofa chair in the dark, then gently lay down. I began to feel that his job was worth 3,000 a month. Kai Mo, who was able to sleep soundly even though her father took her mother away with such a loud noise just now, actually opened her eyes at this moment, turned on her cell phone, and looked for him in bed. Not seeing anyone, he became anxious, sat up and started lighting the entire room. Finally, I saw Li Yang sitting on the sofa, and my anxiety was relieved. My voice was quite gentle. "Oh?" Li Yang could only reply, "I'm fine." Kai Mo nodded, lay down, patted the place beside him, and yawned. Li Yang climbed back onto the bed, not daring to disobey the eldest lady's orders. He finally understood why his bodyguard captain and uncle, who was capable of both writing and ruling the world, and who was good at both being a lady in the hall and in the kitchen, said that she was difficult to deal with. "I'll have to discuss the price increase with Uncle Kai later. It's really fucking difficult." Li Yang went to bed. Kai Mo began to move his body lying on the bed, moving like a slug, and finally lay on top of him. He opened one eye and found that Li Yang had not closed his eyes. He asked with concern, "Oh? It's okay, go to sleep. He lay on the edge of the bed, tilting his head and letting Kai Mo take several puffs of it. Li Yang felt ashamed of being humiliated. He covered himself with a blanket and pulled up one foot of the blanket to block the warm breath that was rushing towards his neck. A few minutes later, she fell asleep. Begin to twirl and turn in the blanket. But some part of the body will come into contact with him. Hands, feet, head, or just lie on your back or lie on top of him. Kai Mo had a chubby physique, estimated to be around 100 pounds. Although the physical contact was somewhat painful, Li Yang was surprised to find that he didn't feel it was difficult at all. Maybe the bed is higher quality? No, this is inconsistent with Newton's third law. While thinking about this question, I fell asleep unknowingly. The bed is really big and comfortable. It's great to have money. Li Yang didn't drink yesterday, so he woke up naturally today. Looking at the time, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. Kai Mo was lying in a big shape with half of his body resting on Li Yang's thigh, sleeping soundly. Li Yang sighed, and for the nth time, helped her put down her lifted nightgown, put her feet in place, and covered her with a blanket. I wiped the saliva off half of my face and felt sad. It was another not so refreshing morning. He planned to wash up first. But as soon as he stepped one foot off the bed, Kai Mo opened one eye and pulled him, and then took him back and went back to sleep, no matter how gentle her movements were. And she was clearly not awake. This might be Kai Mo's superpower, probably not allowing pets to leave the territory or something like that. At 11:30, Li Yang opened his eyes and sighed softly. Kai Mo lay on his back on him, scratching his belly in a completely unruly manner. As if that was not enough, he began to tickle Li Yang's waist. It's very itchy, but there's nothing I can do but endure it. She suddenly tilted her body and farted. A few seconds later, Li Yang covered his nose. Having learned a lot of things in just 2 days, he learned a new thing: the farts of fairies also smell bad. Kai Mo was also awakened by the smell of her own fart. Her eyes finally opened together. She covered her mouth and nose with a dazed expression as if she had not woken up yet. Li Yang shook his head. It wasn't me who put it there. She scratched her head shyly and pointed at herself. She lay on Li Yang's chest, groaning, and began to arch back and forth again. Jiang, who was standing at the door, saw the whole thing and was extremely happy. I let my daughter act coquettishly for a while before I came over to help her put on her underwear and change her clothes. Li Yang sat with his back turned and sighed. Didn't you sleep well? Jiang asked with concern. Li Yang said bluntly, I slept well. Although Kai Mo's sleeping posture was a little bad, I didn't feel very tired. Jiang said proudly, my daughter has a sleep bonus. When Lao Kai comes back from overtime, he will hold her in his arms and sleep. He can go back to work after sleeping for 3 hours. Li Yang. No wonder they make masks. Chapter 27. The problem lies with Li Yang, he is probably sick. Jiang found that Li Yang seemed absent-minded when he got up and ate. It's only been 2 days and I already feel like I'm just being perfunctory. I feel deeply disturbed by his lack of professionalism. So Kai Wanli, who had specially come home to have dinner with his daughter, was caught in the garden. After expressing her doubts, Jiang put her hands on her hips and frowned, asking, what's going on, Xiao Li? How would I know? Kai Wanli sighed, if even you can't figure it out, then I'm even more useless. Jiang threatened, only men know how to be a man. Think about it for me. If you can't think of it, don't even think about touching me. Kai Wanli's cheeks twitched. Ever since Kai Morshin fell ill, the couple's sex life has become like an affair, taking advantage of every opportunity to have sex. It was quite exciting at the beginning. But as time goes on, it becomes too torturous. Ever since Li Yang came. Wow, a long separation is better than a new marriage. These 5 words are simply the most wonderful words in the world. He has been taking supplements these days and maintaining his figure. He is working in the president's office while exercising his abdominal muscles. You're not allowed to touch it on the second day? Is it something a human does? The implication of his wife's words seemed to be that Li Yang did not treat his precious daughter wholeheartedly. So cute. Can you still be distracted, or are you human? The slight favorable impression I had towards Li Yang was immediately greatly reduced. He pushed his wife on the swing and thought about the problem seriously. After thinking for a long time, he decided to sacrifice his daughter for the sake of his own happy life. If it doesn't work, let him touch her. Jiang Luan was completely speechless. I was so angry that I almost had a heart attack. You are stupid, this is not a question of touching or not, you idiot. I don't love Momo at all, you really treat her as your sister. If you have that intention, how can we find out if you kissed her in the middle of the night with the door closed? Although Momo actively tries to get close to Li Yang, she will still be very shy if Li Yang touches her. She was so normal today and clung to him, but there was no progress at all. How is it possible? Kai Wanli was shocked. My daughter is loved by everyone. He choked up as he spoke, realizing something and suddenly putting on a mask of pain. What the hell am I saying? He was in so much pain that he messed up his new hairstyle that he had done for the meeting with his partner. His face was twisted into a ball. What do you mean by kiss? No, no, no. Why did I find a moron like you as my husband? Oh my god, can't you see it? Jiang Luan jumped off the rattan chair in collapse. She took a long breath before she calmed down and sighed, I'll cosplay as a girl for you, and you'll understand. Jiang Luan picked a rose, brushed her hair, pinned the flower to her ear, and then threw herself into Kai Wanli's arms in an exaggerated manner, imitating Kai Mo's coquettish voice, Mom, what's wrong with me? Kai Wanli frowned, thinking about something, and under Jiang Luan's inquiring gaze, he expressed his thoughts. Our daughter can't speak. Idiot, you are such an idiot. Jiang Luan threw the rose beside her ear to the ground and scratched her head in frustration. I am imitating that feeling, you feel it. Feel it with your heart, don't use your stupid judgment of feelings. She reminded seriously and re-entered the situation. Now, Momo is holding hands with Li Yang. She clasped her hands together, trembled as if she had received an electric shock, and pretended to have disordered breathing. Huff, huff, huff. She covered her chest and said in a pinched tone, Mom, my heart hurts so much, am I sick? After imitating, she returned to her normal tone, Yukon. Kai Wanli looked dazed. After a long time, the corners of his mouth twitched and he rubbed his face fiercely. My daughter is in love already? No, you have to teach her. She can't do this. She can't get married. She has to be my daughter all her life. He held up a finger and emphasized seriously, Momo can only kiss daddy. Jiang Luan. Idiot. The bodyguard captain who was smoking in the corner couldn't stand it any longer. Kai Wanli is really sick. Why did I become his sworn brother and introduce my sister to him? Fuck. Jiang Luan pressed her forehead. She had no way to deal with Kai Wanli. She emphasized, have you forgotten what the psychiatrist said? She is determined to marry Li Yang in this life. And Li Yang is such a good kid, she is as beautiful as a fairy, but he doesn't even give her a definite answer. This kind of person must be loyal and he is full of justice and strong ability. You said it yourself last night, he is at least as good as you in business, and he will not be inferior to Chen Yu in politics. Kai Wanli came to his senses and said, does this guy have any intention of marrying my daughter? It's not easy for you to understand. Jiang Luan sat back on the swing and hooked her finger, signaling Kai Wanli to get to work quickly. The swing swung gently, and Jiang Luan sighed. It has been confirmed that Li Yang's role is more important than we thought. The key is that he not only talks about it, but also really treats Momo as a sister. Just like last night, there was no reaction at all. I thought Momo would ask me what is so hard, alas tilde. What happened last night? Kai Wanli was very nervous. It's okay, it's not important anymore. She waved her hands. Originally, when Kai Mo got close to him, he would blush or something, but I didn't expect that he would become immune to it so quickly. Kai Wanli stroked his chin, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Are you bored so soon? Jiang Luan was too lazy to care, he sees her as his own sister. No matter what Kai Mo does, he tolerates her with a smile. There is no love at all. Boredom is something that happens in love. In Li Yang's eyes, it is more like family affection. It is possible to have conflicts with a sister, but how can he be bored with his own sister? In Kai Wanli's opinion, if his daughter touches Li Yang, this bad boy is lucky if Li Yang dares to touch his daughter. He is looking for death if his daughter likes Li Yang. It is his blessing if Li Yang doesn't like his daughter. He is ungrateful. As a father, Comrade Kai Wanli is professional in his double standards towards his son-in-law. Therefore he was very angry, and when he found that he couldn't get angry with Li Yang, he became even angrier. Jiang Luan sighed again, my daughter can't have a normal relationship. She only knows how to be close to the person she likes. But they were so close from the beginning, which caused Li Yang to transform the throbbing in her heart into family affection so that she wouldn't be unable to control her emotions. This also led to the two children falling into the current situation. When your daughter wakes up and wants to kiss you, Li Yang will do it. Then your daughter will cry. What will you do? You're not going to say, oh, my daughter won't have a man anymore, so she can only stick to her daddy. Will you be happy then? Kai Wanli actually wanted to nod, but facing Jiang Luan's murderous gaze, he swallowed his saliva and said, are you going to change Li Yang's mind now? Yes, tell me from a man's perspective what a boy like him likes. Kai Wanli crossed his arms and said, objectively speaking, Momo's looks, figure, and wealth are all top-notch. Most boys would just go after her when they see her. The problem is with Li Yang. He's probably sick. Jiang Luan nodded with a serious expression, obviously agreeing. Yeah, although it's a bit rude, Momo is so cute, excellent, and adorable. Li Yang hasn't fallen in love at first sight. There must be something wrong. Chapter 28. Momo is such a little rascal, so greedy. He shouldn't dislike Momo at all. She even covered Momo with a blanket last night. Jiang Luan sighed, I told you, he treats Momo as his sister. Even when Kai Mo farted on him, he happily let Kai Mo act like a spoiled child. Hey, my daughter is so cute. Jiang Luan, just tell me what to do. It's okay, he has something on his mind. Once school matters are dealt with, he won't be so absent-minded. Momo doesn't hold a high enough position in his heart right now, it's just a matter of time. Li Yang is a career-minded kid, and he won't focus on a girl until he has a family. He can only wait. Once he gets used to being around, and Kai Mo is suddenly not around, he will feel lonely. You still can't escape from Momo's clutches. Jiang Luan's eyes lit up, I see, I need to chase my wife to the crematorium. I'm familiar with this. Okay, go to work. She waved her hand, by the way, I'm tired of what you just said. I think we need some space between us, so let's take a day off today. Kai Wanli. Since she didn't have to go to school for the time being, Jiang Luan cancelled her shopping trip today and played at home. The messenger brought a chessboard and asked Li Yang and Kai Mo to play chess. Li Yang is teaching Kai Mo the rules of Gobang. He actually likes playing chess, especially Go. Although he has not studied it systematically, he is a senior amateur and is hovering between the second and third dan in an online chess software called Yi Hooks. As for Kai Mo, it's better to play Go with her, let her win a few times to make her happy. Jiang Luan brought a cup of tea to Li Yang and pinched Kai Mo's elastic face. Momo, isn't it boring to just play chess? The excited Kai Mo didn't understand what was going on. He looked up, dissatisfied with his mother's words, and retorted, oh, aha. Oh, Momo said he wanted to bet on something. There was a big puzzlement on Kai Mo's small face. The loser has to agree to one of the conditions of the winner. It seems quite fun. Li Yang had no expression on her face. Auntie, she just made a sound. Jiang Luan laughed, don't worry about those details. Kai Mo had already heard it, his desire to win was burning in his heart, and his face was serious. Kai Mo. Li Yang noticed that her palms were open again, just holding hands, he nodded indifferently. The Diamond Sutra is worthy of being a Buddhist classic and its efficacy is extraordinary. He no longer had any distractions, only a desire to save others. Kai Mo hummed to encourage himself. Li Yang's attention has shifted to the heavy chessboard. He estimated that it was probably made of top-quality Torreya Grandes wood and had been carefully maintained. There were still some marks of chess pieces on the 19 lines. It was an antique that had been through a lot of fighting. The rattan chess basket is made of Yunnan Yongzi, which is known as a national treasure. No chess enthusiast can resist the charm of this set of equipment. What a pity. It would be so happy if I could be tortured. Well, Li Yan will be happy soon, or Kai Mo will be happier. Li Yang's thoughts were interrupted by Kai Mo's voice, and he looked up at Jiang Luan. Jiang Luan chewed a pear and translated, Momo said she wanted to play Go. She has never played Gobang before so it's easy to lose. Li Yang nodded awkwardly, okay. He is an idiot. After all, Kai Mo was a lady from a wealthy family, so it was normal for her to learn some chess to cultivate her temperament when she was young. Sure enough, after she started playing chess, she sat upright with a serious and restrained expression. From the perspective of momentum, it looks quite good. The movement of twisting the chessboard is also very beautiful. The snow-white little hands are like butterflies flying through flowers, hitting the chessboard and making crisp sounds. Auntie, does she go down often? Jiang Luan shook her head. I learned it when I was a kid, but I haven't played it for more than 10 years. Jiang Luan winked as she spoke, meaning that Li Yang should give way to her. Li Yang naturally understood and also placed the piece on the chessboard. During the layout stage, people make some fixed moves without thinking. Even when professional chess players play against each other, there is not much difference in the layout stage. However, Kaimo's chess records are all old ones, which are somewhat out of touch with the AI era. Li Yang has not studied them in depth and his level is limited, but he can see some clues. Many of them are now eliminated or become common moves. But this does not mean that Kaimo's level is poor, at least his memory is very outstanding. It was the first time that Li Yang saw such a serious expression on her face. It would be very rude if he didn't play nice with her. At last. There were a total of 361 points in Go. The serious Li Yang won by more than 100 points against the weak Kaimo. Jiang Luan didn't quite understand. Seeing Li Yang throw the dice, she only knew it was over, but couldn't tell the result. She asked, who won? Li Yang, Sister Kaimo won. Jiang Luan blinked. You let her do it on purpose, didn't you? No, I've already tried my best. Sister Kaimo started to give way to me when we got to the middle. Li Yang's mouth twitched. There was a dead dragon, and Kaimo wanted him to revive it. A gentleman can be killed but not humiliated. Li Yang was embarrassed to retreat. Kaimo even nodded deliberately, which made him even more embarrassed. Anyway, even if he survived, he would still lose half a point. Hee. Kaimo seemed to sense that Li Yang was very weak in the middle game and started to give in. Otherwise, Li Yang would not be able to survive except for the corner. He was not someone who could not afford to lose, and emphasized, Sister Kaimo is really amazing. If she is not at the professional level, she is at least at the 5th or 6th level. Kaimo touched the ball head shyly, hee. Aunt Jiang Luan didn't sound like a lie. Kaimo was really very, very smart. He was still at this level after not playing for more than 10 years. At least he had a photographic memory. Moreover, it is not enough to just remember everything you see when playing Go. Training is required to maintain the feeling. In any case, if Li Yang does not play for a week, his level will drop significantly. Jiang Luan clapped her hands. She didn't care about this kind of thing. It was normal for her daughter to be smart. She was more interested in the bet. Momo, what are the conditions for you to win? She held out a hand, turned it over like she had done yesterday in the car, and winked at her mother. Li Yang picked up the tea and took a sip. We held hands with each other for just a moment, and we held hands all the way yesterday. It's okay, it doesn't matter, it's no big deal, I've taken the money. Jiang Luan began to translate. Oh, Momo wants Li Yang to kiss you on the face. As she said that, she tapped Kaimo's nose and said, Momo is such a little rascal, so greedy. Kaimo was confused again and asked, Puff. Li Yang spit a mouthful of tea onto the ground and quickly stopped her. Auntie, that's not what she meant. However, baby Kaimo reacted faster. His eyes began to sparkle with little stars. He nodded repeatedly, raised a finger, and explained in a serious manner, rrrr. Jiang Luan also looked serious and nodded repeatedly, seeming to be very fair. She said that's what she meant. Li Yang. Jiang Luan sighed, if you don't want to, forget it. Momo is very sensible and won't embarrass you. Kaimo lowered his head and rubbed the ribbon around his waist aggrievedly. Li Yang. Chapter 29. Don't disturb her for now, let her feel it with her heart. Li Yang fell into deep thought. If I wasn't hallucinating, I should have just touched her face. Why do I feel like I've done something particularly excessive? Opposite. Kaimo leaned limply on the rattan chair. She seemed to have lost her soul. Only the lovely shell is left. Auntie, is Momo okay? Li Yang was a little nervous. Jiang Luan picked up the teacup calmly, gave her a reassuring look, took a sip of tea, and said leisurely, don't disturb her for now, let her feel it with her heart. Li Yang. For a long time. Mum. She couldn't help but utter a coquettish cry, and finally came to her senses. A pair of small hands covered the place where they were kissed, and the numbness spread from the cheeks to their whole body, and the pair of feet were shaking restlessly. Breathing in and out, moaning, squinting eyes, opening eyes, scratching legs, scratching face. Just like that, after a while, she finally returned to being the cute and adorable Kaimo she once was. She looked up at Li Yang, who had a concerned look on his face, and waved. She spoke with difficulty, as if she had used up all her strength. Jiang Luan was stunned. Momo, I really didn't misjudge you. You are really greedy. Li Yang was a little curious. What did Momo say? Again. Jiang Luan blushed for her daughter and repeated shyly, she asked you to do it again. Li Yang. Jiang Luan shook her finger and answered for Li Yang, no. This is an agreement. Then. Kaimo put the black and white pieces into the chess basket at lightning speed and requested a game. At the same time, chess player Kaimo had a serious negotiation with referee Jiang Luan. I raised 5 fingers, hoping that if I win the next round, I can get 5 kisses. But referee Jiang Luan adheres to the principles of fairness, justice, unity and friendship. Using the illusion of the greedy snake swallowing an elephant, Dun Dun taught and influenced their obstinate Kaimo. At the same time, I comforted her by saying, it's the same if you win a few more times. Jiang Luan was really a little scared. She planned not to unlock new gameplay for Kaimo for the time being. If it goes too far, Li Yang might get tired of being stuck with her, and that would be a waste of time. Of course, the chess game continues. So, in one afternoon, I kissed her left cheek, right cheek, and forehead twice. In fact, it was just a touch on the face, and Li Yang no longer had any psychological barriers. The power of habit is so terrible. In Li Yang's understanding, Kaimo's sleeping posture was so bad that he might even kiss her while she was asleep. Forehead. This is nothing at all. Forget it. After today, we probably won't be able to meet for a long time. When I come back next time, there will definitely be a new bed. It was getting dark and time for dinner, but she still wanted to get off. Aunt Jiang Luan said something to her secretly, and Kaimo compromised and went to eat reluctantly. Li Yang felt relieved. Kaimo didn't know because of the whole afternoon of chess. Li Yang didn't know how many small accounts he registered to bully the weak ones, only then did he make up for the emotional trauma he suffered. When it was time for dinner, Kai Wanli hurried over as usual. There were 4 people at the table and they started eating. Jiang Luan tied a lunch bag on Kaimo. But today, Kaimo didn't eat as hard as usual. He was daydreaming, grinning foolishly, scratching his face, scratching his head, tugging at his mother, playing with his fingers, and just not concentrating on eating. Momo, are you okay? Kai Wanli was so worried that he couldn't even eat. Should we call a doctor? Li Yan was also a little worried. Auntie, are you okay? She fed the grinning Kaimo and caught the rice that leaked from the corner of Kaimo's mouth with her hands. It's okay, it's nothing. This will happen a lot in the future. Oh. Li Yan was eating. Kai Wanli suddenly felt very uncomfortable and his appetite decreased a lot. He said to himself anxiously, oh, I feel like I'm going to lose something, even though the business is going very smoothly. Jiang Luan didn't care, things like this will be lost sooner or later. Kai Wanli. What's the meaning? Jiang Luan, it's okay. After dinner, it's time to take a bath, which is something we all love to see. Li Yang lay sadly in the bathtub, deciding to give up his hobby of Go. He deliberately soaked for a while longer, washing away today's fatigue and humiliation, and walked out of the bathroom refreshed. Are you going back to school tomorrow? Jiang Luan handed over a glass of iced juice. Li Yang nodded, yes. Kaimo on the side held up the cup and looked at his mother. Momo can't go with us. Li Yang smiled and clinked glasses with her. Cheers. Kaimo was not as depressed as one might imagine. After clinking glasses, his eyes curved and he drank the juice in a very heroic manner. Then he looked at Li Yang eagerly. Li Yang had no choice but to drink it all in one breath. Kaimo grabbed Li Yang's hand and pulled him up the stairs. Li Yang didn't understand and let her take him away. Jiang Luan followed with some surprise. Are you going upstairs to watch the projection so early today? Kaimo shook his head, a little disgusted. Jiang Luan, don't you want mom to come with you? Oh ho, she nodded, and said, oh, Jiang Guan looked at Li Yang. She told you to go to bed early today. My dear, there is more to this chapter. Please click on the next page to continue reading. It's even more exciting later. Li Yang. Kai Mo waited for Li Yang to finish brushing his teeth, then he moved and gave up the seat next to him. Although it is embarrassing every time, this time, it was particularly embarrassing. This is the first time I sleep so seriously. He sat on the edge of the bed and then lay down next to Kai Mo. When Kai Mo saw Li Yang lying down, she sat up, picked up the remote control and pressed a few buttons. The windows closed automatically, the curtains were drawn, the blinds were closed, and the ventilation system was turned on. Then turn off the room's main lights, ambient lights, and bedside lights. In just half a minute, the bedroom was completely dark. There was a rustling sound of clothes rubbing against each other nearby. As we all know, most girls have to liberate their bunnies before going to bed. Even though he couldn't see clearly with his eyes open, Li Yang still turned his back. Kai Mo finished the operation, lay down, and stretched Li Yang's shoulders. He stretched out an arm very skillfully and Kai Mo lay on it. She said. Good night. Li Yang lifted the blanket with his other hand and covered her with it. No matter how dark it was, they could still see with their eyes, and the two couldn't help but look at each other. Kai Mo. Li Yang. You can't sleep. Kai Mo, ZZZZZZ. Li Yang. Jiang Guan, who was downstairs, was watching TV with little interest. No dating show could be as interesting as my daughter's live broadcast, so I went to bed. Tomorrow when her daughter cries, she will have enough energy to comfort her. She is already 20 years old, and there are some things she should understand. Hey. Chapter 30 Leaving. It was the first time I had the breakfast carefully prepared by our nanny, Umar. Through casual chats with Uncle Kai and Aunt Wu, Li Yang roughly understood the composition of the people in this villa. Aunt Wu is responsible for making breakfast for those who can get out of bed, usually only Kai Wanli. After that, I took the clothes out of the basket to send for laundry, cleaned all the rooms except the bedroom, sorted the washed clothes, and then went to the nearby store to buy fruits and snacks to supplement the daily needs of the two lovely ladies. After doing all this, Kai Mo and Jiang Guan were almost up, so she could tidy up the bedroom and ask the hostess what supplies to put in the refrigerator tomorrow. She can go home from get off work. The captain of the bodyguards is responsible for the security of Kai Mo and Jiang Guan, and he also prepares the main meals. He is an excellent cook, and probably because of their blood relationship, his schedule is consistent with those of these difficult women in this family. Anyway, when Li Yang was having lunch, he could always be seen hiding in the kitchen and eating with great energy. Kai Mo and Jiang Guan just pretended that this person did not exist. It might be a long-standing habit. As for why he, as their uncle, wanted to do this kind of work, Li Yang was too embarrassed to ask. After breakfast, Kai Wanli's driver came to pick people up. The driver looked older than the bodyguard and gave a calm impression. What time are you late? There is an early class at 8 o'clock. Kai Wanli's punctuality is ingrained in his bones. He glanced at his watch and said, well, there's still time. Let's go to Magic City University first. The car took a DT on the elevated road. As the boss's driver, you need to be familiar with the roads, have superb driving skills, and be able to read the boss's expressions. When the boss needs to catch up on sleep, don't change your route if you can. When the boss is in a hurry, drive as fast as possible. Li Yang didn't know why Kai Wanli wanted to tell him this. Was he planning to make him his driver? What are you thinking about? He came back to his senses and smiled. Uncle Kai has been very busy these past few days. When Kai Wanli didn't speak, he pursed his lips and looked very majestic. But when talking to people close to him, he is very easygoing and can even joke with Li Yang. Li Yang had already felt this on the day he was kidnapped. I'm used to it. I can rest for a long time after being busy for a while. Kai Wanli lowered the car window, put a cigarette in the corner of his mouth, and gave one to Li Yang. Seeing that Li Yang didn't want it, he was happy, really quit. For my daughter. Li Yang couldn't nod or shake his head, so he could only scratch his face. I'm afraid she will feel uncomfortable after smelling it. After all, uncle, you pay me a salary, and I also pay attention to customer experience. Unexpectedly, Kai Wanli was quite satisfied with this statement. What do you think of Momo? Li Yang thought for a moment and said, she is very smart. If it weren't for that accident, she would have made a great career. I will do my best to help her get out of the shadow and let her live the life she deserves. Kai Wanli tilted his head and exhaled a puff of smoke. I'm not asking you this, do you like her? If you spend your whole life with her now, can you accept it? Li Yang. He said casually, you are already 20 years old, why are you still shy? Yes, of course I'm not shy in front of my friends. Who are you? Kai Mo's biological father. She likes you very much and will like you more and more. Li Yang was about to speak when he was interrupted. Okay, shut up, I'm her father, I know her better than you. I have to say, this style is exactly the same as Kai Mo's, very domineering. I won't tell you any more about this. Kai Wanli scratched his wrist and looked at the time again. How far is it? Driver, boss, we're almost there. Kai Wanli looked at Li Yang and said, tell me what trouble you have. Don't tell me you don't have any. If Jiang Luan knew, she would definitely intervene. Li Yang was a little embarrassed and scratched his face. Grandpa Kai Mo is very powerful. Kai Wanli reminded, if something goes wrong, don't take your anger out on Kai Mo. Li Yang could only answer honestly, someone wants to falsely accuse me of rape. Kai Wanli was shocked. Just such a trivial matter between students can lead to such a thing. Is it the student of the Lin family? You said you couldn't come to my house because of this. Why didn't you say so earlier? As he spoke, he began to flip through the address book on his phone. Li Yang waved his hands repeatedly, those who sued me, stand on my side. Uncle, you don't need to help, I can handle it myself. It's useless even if I intervene in this matter. In the end, he will definitely be released due to insufficient evidence. It will only ruin my reputation and ruin my credit. Then the microfilm case will be irreversible. Kai Wanli put down his phone. Wow, that's quite a dirty trick. Li Yang is even more NP. He has already learned how to plant spies among his opponents. How old is this kid? He asked curiously, so how are you going to report the dirty deeds of the school in the future? Use public opinion. By then, the attention of Magic City University will be enough, and this case can be thoroughly investigated. My father has already arranged it. He has to hand over the report letter. He is a hated person in the workplace. That's great. After you finish this job, you can stay with Momo with peace of mind. Li Yang, yeah. Inside the villa. Kai Mo hugged Jiang Luan and started crying loudly. Woo 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 woo. Jiang Luan felt very distressed, and held him in her arms and coaxed him, it's okay, it's okay. He's not with another woman. He's just like Dad. He went to work and will be back. Burp Tilder. Oh, yes, he was so mean. He didn't even kiss your cheek before leaving. Kai Mo looked up puzzledly, pouting his lips with tearful eyes, memo, aha. Jiang Luan blushed, how did you know? Kai Mo sobbed, Jiang Luan. As far as she knew, there was no such thing as a kiss goodbye. Under the current circumstances, Li Yan will definitely not take the initiative to do it. Wow. Kai Mo threw herself into Jiang Luan's arms and started crying again. She had been looking forward to this for a long time, and it was because of this that she was reluctantly willing to separate from Xia Wuo. Every time Daddy goes out for a few days, he would kiss Mommy when she is sleeping, and he would kiss her for a long time. As long as the kiss is given, Mom will roll around happily even if Dad leaves. Although she was basically too lazy to get up at that time, she secretly watched the whole process. Kai Mo thought she could finally experience the feeling of being woken up by a kiss. When I woke up, I found that the person was gone. In her understanding, this is something that can only be done when they are apart. Thinking of this, she cried even louder. He cried and murmured to his mother. The more Jiang Luan listened, the weirder her expression became. She decided to make sure her daughter understood the matter thoroughly. So, the mother and daughter had a rare breakfast together.